When my date takes me home and kisses me goodnight, if I don't hear the podcast in my head, I dump him.
What's the podcast?
Philharmonic.
Gotta move near Lincoln Center if you want that to happen.
There are so many Babs lines in this movie that she delivers with what I can only call Hector Elizondo energy. You recently talked about the most successful joke in movie history. Or no, that's in a future episode.
Oh, it's in a future episode. Okay. But
Yes.
Runaway Bride, have you seen?
Of course.
Have I seen?
When she gets on,
It's not my
when
favorite,
she gets
Julia,
on,
but
not mine either, but when she gets on the FedEx truck, and the guy
to run away.
to flee away.
The
Yeah.
titular act.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Right.
someone's like, "Where's she going?" And Elizondo says, "I don't know, but wherever she is, she's going. She'll be there at 10:30 tomorrow." And I just saw a crowd just start firing guns in the air when he said that. Just like they just
Caught
were ready
fire.
to storm a castle.
That's
They
so
were
good.
so energized.
It's funny.
Here's my immediate hot take on this movie.
Yeah.
This is like an Apatow film directed by Gary Marshall.
That's a great call.
Right?
Maybe
good.
that's what she is.
Yes.
At least as a rom-com director.
Yes.
Where
and she
you're like,
thinks it's an Albert Brooks film.
Yes.
yeah.
But it's not.
It's not.
where she's like a sixth act. And you're like, I don't know, Barbara. And she's like, no, it's there. I'm putting it in.
She's always right. That's the thing about Barbara that you have to know that I've learned by reading about 250 pages of her book now.
Sure,
is that
so
people,
fifth.
people say, Barbara, it can't be done. Barbara, no. Barbara, not this. And she goes, no, I'm doing it. And then guess what? She was right.
She's never taken an
She's
L.
never.
Never in her life.
And
Never.
her entire life is built up of small moments in which people said no, but she did it and she was right.
Yeah. No,
for her.
the sixth act of this
I
moment
live the same
of
way,
this movie.
obviously.
Yeah.
You and Barbara are very similar.
Very simple.
Very similar. The sixth act of this movie is when it clicked for me, where it's like Apatow must have lost his mind and been like, wait, movies don't have to end? I can do anything? Like,
That's a
this
good
was
point.
his 2001 A
It's like,
Space Odyssey. This was his-
Judd, romantic comedies, 95 minutes tops. And
Yeah.
he's like, what if we push on through that?
Right. What if the movie contains 3 sequels to itself?
That is. The thing about him is, Knocked Up is a little long.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, this is pretty long. Then Funny People is way too long. And I like that movie, but everyone's like,
Masterpiece.
Jesus, like a whole fucking other movie in this. And he's like, this is 40 should be similarly long.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
I'm not learning my lesson
No.
at all. He never learned his lesson.
No.
The King of Staten Island was like 140 minutes long, right?
Yeah.
And that movie's just like Pete Davidson going to the bodega.
Well,
Nothing happens
You
in
haven't
it.
seen the Roadshow version, have you?
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. Good call.
It's just funny to have the movie be this sort of
It's
like
137 minutes. I looked it
Jesus.
up. Wow.
This movie having
For
the
no
energy
reason.
of like, look, we're not plot driven. It's about characters. It's about dynamics. It flows. And then every scene, there's at least 4 lines that are pitched to the back of Yankee Stadium that are given full, like, sort of Henny Youngman.
There's one line that really made me laugh.
But it also needs to end like it's a 90-minute rom-com.
Yes.
With like a very traditional ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does succeed in making it gives you that good feel. Like
Yeah, I love how big it is.
works,
Yeah.
but you're like, we could have done this in less time and it would have been cleaner.
Could have had
I
another
guess.
hour of Lauren Bacall too, and
I
that would have
know.
been fine.
It's so true. But
now she would have a spin-off show. Now she would go to Apple TV Plus.
Yes. And no one would watch it.
No.
But 2 of your
Darkhold
friends would be like,
Diaries.
why aren't you watching the Lauren Bacall
be like-
and
spin-off
she
show?
would be nominated for something.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's just oneers of her tight close-ups.
Who's Lauren Bacall, whose real name is Betty and is a Jew, which Barbara learns in the book, and then
Oh,
calls her
interesting.
Betty
The
the
whole
entire
book.
chapter.
The whole
I'm sure
Mm.
Lauren loved that. Betty Persky.
Betty
Yeah.
Persky.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Isn't
mean,
that
I can see
incredible?
why they changed it to the sexiest name of all time. Lauren Bacall, yeah.
I got so excited watching this movie, knowing we were going to do an episode on it. I'd never seen it before.
Oh.
Yeah.
But not to call our shot. I'm
You're
like watching
side.
this movie, knowing our guests are coming in, and we're just like, this is fucking automatic home run. We're just
Yeah.
going to have a ball.
My
It's been a while since I feel like we've talked about a movie that is crazy in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're right. That feels like you're having a dream, like a fevered dream. Not
Yeah.
to invoke. Yeah,
It's the rare
yes.
combo of, I can't think of another movie like this that's, I mean, sure, there are plenty, cozy crazy. It's very
Cozy crazy.
warm, but it's also completely demented.
The Home Again
Yes.
experience.
Home Again,
Like this
right.
is
Again,
Yes,
Home
oh
Again
my
isn't this
God.
cozy.
Right.
Home Again
Home
is
Again is less it's
Home
spikier.
Again, you get
it's
mad
too
because you're
LA.
like,
You
this
need to
is
be-
bad.
You need to be cold in you have to be in jackets in New York City to be this cozy.
That's why Barbara's so good because
Yeah.
right, it'll always be so finely appointed. Everyone will have nice clothes. Every set will be nice.
Sure.
Right, like I'll shoot on location.
Well, that's the other thing is Home Again.
So even though
Shot
in this
on the
movie you're
surface of
like
the sun,
everyone
Home
in
Again.
this movie needs to go to an asylum. Like, but
Right.
you're just kind of like,
This
but they are having a great time.
It's a great New York. It shows New York so beautifully, which I think
Yes.
is always something that you notice now because we're not
Movies
getting a
just
lot
don't
of
do it
good
enough.
movies. Don't
Yeah.
look good
They're
anymore.
Vancouver.
Like
This movie
period,
has
it looks great.
2 of history's best DPs.
Worked on this movie.
Yeah.
One was fired and the other one was
Right.
brought back.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But like, yeah, Home Again, I mean, we did a whole episode litigating this, but what's so fascinating about that movie is it's happening at like the death of this type of film. So they were like, you only get to make this as an open road movie with a $12 million budget
Right, yeah.
and 20 days to film.
Right.
This has the scale and the budget and the fucking Marvin Hamlish score.
Oh my God.
And
Babs'
just like,
best friend.
Yeah.
One of her BFF. I mean, she's calling in favors everywhere. If she's
Totally.
Barbara, she can. But it really is a curation. And I love that that's about her is that it's taste.
Yes.
It's in the movie is written with, I went to the opera to get, or the symphony to get inspiration or whatever.
'Cause she
And
didn't have
then
an ending.
I thought of the end. And it's like, wow, that's so her. That's so New York. It's so her.
You said it right before we started recording, Lindsay, but the feeling of this movie being you know what, I'm going to try to make an easy one. It's so telling of a type of artist we're obsessed with who's like, you know what, I've taken on these big, ambitious, unwieldy, emotionally raw projects.
Yeah,
I want
been
an
rolled
easy
up. I
one.
rode some balls up a hill. Let's just
And it's her
do a
last
New York rom-com.
One.
Piece
So
of
it's-
cake.
So
Yeah.
do you think she says, well, that wasn't worth it? Or I
That's
guess
literally what
I guess
she
that's
says.
it.
Yeah.
She hates to work. Also, that's another thing about Barbara. She hates
Yes.
to work.
Yes.
She's very lazy.
Yes.
The in the memoir, the chapter
respect.
that's called The Mirror Has
Have
Two
you
Faces.
finished the memoir?
No, I've only read this chapter.
Okay, great.
I've only read
So
this chapter.
to be clear, I've read 1/5 of the book, and then I
Plus
went
this
ahead and I went to this chapter because it's on page 800,
Hell
which
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
even think I'll ever reach.
It's like 883, I
Yeah,
think, is
no,
where
I
the
know.
chapter
I don't think
starts.
I'm ever getting there.
And it starts with her being like, I made Yentl. It took me like 100
Yeah.
years. And I knew I could make a movie, which Roger Ebert basically says in his review, and it almost seems like she's quoting him indirectly. She's like, I made Yentl, took me forever. I was meticulous. And then I made Prince of Tides. I worked a little less hard, but I still worked really hard.
Yeah.
And she's like, I proved to myself I could make hard movies, good movies that are critically adored. And she was like, I had to prove to myself I could make an easy movie.
I love
Right.
that.
So
about
she did
her.
this, and then she does,
Make
and
it
then she's
complicated.
Done.
Right. I have a lot of thoughts on this. We'll talk about this thoroughly. And I've already done this bit before. I'm going to repeat a bit, but I just think it's
Just
always
do
going to
it.
work.
Just do
I
it.
have the Barbara book
Yeah.
here on my desk.
Boom.
Do you know how much this book costs? $50.
That's Kindle was 18.
You know, who paid for it.
Kindle was 8. It's good. Kindle was 18.
Do you know that if you download it
But
to your
it somehow
Kindle,
makes your Kindle
Kindle
heavy. Yeah. Fuck.
Nice, guys.
You put it on the desk. It's like, thunk. Really? I think it's pretty light. There's too much e-ink inside all of a sudden.
I mean, I just can't wait till somebody breaks into my apartment and I hit them with the book.
Well, no,
And
or
they
they try
die.
to steal it and
Yeah.
it slows them down.
They're like, no. And I'm like, that costs $50.
their
I-
knees buckle.
I told my mom I had some Audible credits, and I was like, Mom, do you want, because I've sent her a couple like novels that I thought she
Yeah.
would like, and she did, because she prefers to read.
Mm.
But I was like, do you want to read the Barbra Streisand memoir? I feel like you would. I was like, but it's like 1,000 pages long. I could send you the audiobook.
Right.
It's 40 hours long. And she goes,
48 hours.
48 hours. And she goes,
A full
And,
note.
and
Does
Nick
Barbara-
Nolte
she goes,
reads
does
it,
Barbara
right?
read it or does someone else? And I was
Of
like,
course
Barbara
she
does.
reads
And she
it.
goes, oh, okay, yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, the audiobook is very good. I just listened to Julia Fox read. I said I can't.
She
The
read,
Streisand
she
book.
read it
Yeah.
herself?
She read the Streisand book. No, she read her own memoir, and I said it took so long to finish that I was like, if I start Barbara 48 hours, I'm really never gonna
Is
finish.
Julia Fox's memoir also 1,000 pages long?
No, but it's long enough.
Mhm.
It's long.
Anything
liked it.
longer than a
I did.
pamphlet on that one. No offense to Julia Fox.
She's got a
I
storied
respect the
life, but
hustle.
she's no Barbara.
No.
Right.
Barbara on Stern, she said something to the effect of,
Yeah, I listen to that too.
people ask me why the book's so long, so I never have to do an interview ever again.
She's lazy.
Yeah.
She is
It's like,
lazy.
it's all in here.
She's It took her 10 years. They asked her to do it. Took her 10 years. She did it, and we're done with this forever.
Did she really write it longhand, or
Yes.
is that just,
I believe
she really
Yes.
did?
I
Amazing.
believe that.
Amazing.
That was the other thing she said in the Stern interview he was like, so what are you going to work on now? And she's like, I'm going to hang out with friends. I haven't seen people in 10 years.
Jesus,
She
Barbara,
truly
relax.
was like, I've done nothing else for the last 10 years.
Throw the book on the desk
She's
again.
such a Jewish
The
mom.
Stern
God
interview is
bless
so
her.
funny when he's like, Barbara, you're so sexy. You've dated so many hot guys. What's that? And she's like, what are you talking about? Like,
Howie.
very good mixture of people.
She's like, I'm not sexy. Haven't you seen The Mirror Has Two Faces?
well, that's okay.
Haven't you seen acts 1 through 5 of The Mirror Has
That's
Two
a
An
great
Faces?
hour
point.
and 30 minutes telling you I ain't nothing special.
That's
to
a great
look
point
at.
because this movie is kind of in reading the first million chapters of the book about her mother never told her she was beautiful.
Yes.
Her
A big thing
father
for her.
neglected her, left her family, died early actually.
Her father died early, but
Right.
then her stepdad also ignored her.
Wouldn't love
never
her.
was
Right.
awful to her.
Wouldn't
she
pay
hates-
attention to her.
If her she would kill her stepdad if she could. He is dust. He is done to her. She hates him. But the movie is like all those themes, which was interesting to kind of see in tandem with the book.
She pours herself into these things. We'll talk about it.
She's it's almost like method at this point.
Well,
That's
and,
why I'm like, it's so good to see her go method.
It's like Yentl is her sort of trying to channel her
Her
dad.
dead father, who
Mm.
she never
And
got
then
to know.
Prince of Tides is her trying to get in touch with her
Forgive
mom.
her mother. It's
right,
her trying to
exactly.
forgive her mother.
Right.
And
who she-
this one is
who
her
she
being
does
like, what about
forgive.
Barbara?
Yeah.
You know?
Hey!
Right. She's obsessed with the idea that she's not traditionally beautiful. Obsessed.
Yes.
And that's
All right.
like the main.
Introduce our show.
This is
because
Babs
you're
chat
right.
with Griffin and David.
Yeah. Our farewell to Babs.
It is.
Oh,
Yeah.
It's a podcast about filmographies, directors who have massive success early on in their careers and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy passion projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes they bounce. Baby, this is a miniseries on the films of Barbra Streisand. I always say it like that for some reason because I'm trying to make sure I don't say Barbara.
It's Barbara.
Barbara.
I mean, her name is Barbara. Sorry, Barbara.
Well, I'm actually looking at the cover of this
I know. She
100-page
changed it.
book here, and it says, "My name is Barbara," so you're wrong.
I'm wrong. I do love that her book tour clearly is just Jewish mom guilt. She's like, you know how hard I worked on this thing?
Yes.
Come on, Stern, read it.
It's a miniseries on the films of Barbra Streisand. It is called Podcastle.
Mhm. Mhm.
And today we're talking about what is to date her final film. Now, she has threatened to make other movies. She
Not a
has.
threat. I welcome them. Please make another movie. She's 5 years younger than Ridley Scott.
This
She
is
can go
true.
make her Napoleon.
She could make 3 Napoleons.
No, he can make 3 Napoleons. There's only he can do that.
You're right. She could make
Where
half
he's
a
like,
Napoleon.
I
It would take
know
4
a guy
times
who
as
has
long.
cannons. Like that's the whole
Yeah.
thing with it's not just that he's a good director. He clearly just knows like the guy with cannons.
Yes.
Yeah.
An underrated part of directing. I mean, it is, but it is part of this movie where, like, as you said, Lindsay, this is her calling in every favor. The big one that she keeps on saying she has wanted to do for the last 20 years is Gypsy. And it came down to
I'm all for it.
Sondheim saying she could either star or direct, but not both. And that was the stalemate.
Now she's too old, so she could to star. So
she could just direct.
Yeah.
I mean, even 10 years ago, when
She
she
could've
was too old to play it, she
squeezed
still
it.
was like, I'm going to do it.
She ends this book saying that that's her dream.
I mean,
Gypsy.
it would be.
I'd love her to direct it. I don't. But then who-
Again,
who the
lazy
hell
woman.
would she
Okay,
hire?
here's our guest
she
before
wants
we
to
get to
spend
this
time
because
with
it's
her
a big
friends.
conversation. She does.
Lazy
She needs a
woman.
decade with her friends. Our guest today returns to the show for the first time in too long. Bobby Finger, Lindsay Weber, Who Weekly.
Hi.
Hey, what's up?
Am I
back.
wrong in thinking this is Bobby's 5th?
Oh,
Time.
because Bobby
Can I
had a
like
solo
catch up
Yeah,
by
I
doing
don't
my own
know.
episode
You gotta do
sometime?
some
You're
I
solo.
don't know that it's
Thank
you
you.
can.
fifth.
Cloud Atlas.
Cloud Atlas. Something's got to. It may be third
This
or
is your
fourth.
Something's got to give, and then this is your 3rd episode, the 2 of you
You
together.
guys are forgetting Ricky and the Flash.
Ricky and the Flash.
Amazing
forget her.
episode.
Yes,
Amazing
great
episode.
You've got
episode.
mail in this.
Yeah, we've done some
So
Oh,
Lindsay's
amazing
got to
so
do
episodes.
2
nice.
solos,
Thank
and then
you.
you're tied.
I would
That's
like to
so
do that.
nice. Oh, I forgot about Ricky and the Flash.
You-
Good
You can't
movie.
forget
How?
about Ricky.
How did I forget
They
about
told you
Ricky
to
and the
get ready
Flash?
for Ricky.
Oh.
They told me on
The
every
way we-
poster in
the
every
way we
AMC
get,
for months.
We really get called in for these big. I feel like we are on the most episodes that people skip.
No, you are not.
Wrong.
I think so. I think
Totemic.
so.
Totemic Films.
No, I love being there. That's a great place for us to be.
No,
Yeah.
how many? Yes, it's when there's a movie you think your listeners are going to skip, it should be us.
This is similar to Ricky and the Flash in
Yeah.
that it's like big female star
Mhm.
movie that is unhinged and a little long, but kind of great, and like weirdly dramatic,
Weirdly
but also
final
out of control.
Yeah.
Weirdly a final film. True.
Yeah,
That's
although
true.
hopefully not for long with Barbara.
Mm.
Okay, so now wait. Now that you've been introduced, who could play
Gypsy?
Mama Rose and Gypsy.
The problem to me is it's like, of course there are grand dames who she could cast,
Sure.
but would she then get along with them? Like,
This is the question.
what, like,
Right, because she doesn't get along with.
It's not just who would
anybody.
you cast, it was
Anyone.
who could Barbara cast.
right.
Well, this is like also famously, she never went to see Leah Michele in Funny Girl. Like she, even people like put
is so
themselves out
mean.
to die for her. Like
Yes.
they're like, it's kind of you should never be like, Barbara is it for me, because she'll never pay you back.
No, never.
Like she will never.
She gives big Barbara stepdad energy
she
to
says
anyone
that.
who
Barbara's not gonna
idolizes her.
direct Patty LaPone. Like, they would
No.
kill each other. They would kill each other.
Does
also-
Leslie Manville sing?
Oh,
Bring her in.
Bobby.
Does Leslie Manville sing?
They all be
Every
one of
Brit
the hugest
sings. They all
questions
sing.
ever asked.
Does anyone even really need to sing in that movie? It's
Yeah, I
fine.
guess
They
it's
can
fair.
talk it.
Yeah.
We'll talk it.
Because that's
But like,
fun.
right, if it's Hathaway, do they both storm off on day 2 of filming?
Well, Hathaway's too young.
What's the age we're looking for here?
Yeah, I was gonna
Like,
say,
sort
well,
of
how old?
50s, 60s, right?
You
I
could
mean,
you could be pushing 70.
yeah, you could be
right?
pretty
Yeah.
old.
What
like
about
Ethel Merman,
Bette?
you know.
Yeah.
What about Bette Midler?
She's
Oh.
pretty
That's a
old.
double homicide.
They would. I know they would
That-
kill each other.
Again, that's right.
That's
That's
the problem
like
is these
day
big
3
energies.
deadline reports.
Yes.
That's like
She
tear in the
needs
space-time
Barbara and
continuum.
Bette.
That's
Yeah,
like
right.
Yes.
that's like the soundstage disappears.
The black hole opens.
No one knows what happened.
But like you're right, she needs an actor who is
Yes.
deferential to her
Yes.
as a personality in person and as a director.
What about?
So
Mhm.
who's that? Who doesn't have a big personality?
She's not the best singer, but Glenn Close,
Great.
who's so desperate for her Oscar that
Yeah.
she's just like, I'm not going to.
Glenn
fuck
would
with
be
Babs.
amazing.
Step on me, Barbara.
no,
Yeah,
Glenn would
right.
be amazing.
Yeah.
And Glenn would really buy into Barbara's kind of like all-in perfectionist type of
I
work,
defer to
which
you,
is like
Barbara.
right.
I defer to you, Barbara.
And nothing is
Yeah.
going to be done without it being the best possible. That's the thing with
And
Barbara. She'd need $100 million.
They could talk about Yentl and Knobs. We both
They
did
could.
that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
Right?
We both did it.
Yeah.
Yentl
both
and
did
Knobs
that.
is like Rizzoli and Isles. Like, what's this new show
They
on
could
TNT?
bring that to TNT.
Wait a second. Get Zaslav on the phone. No, I feel
we
like
both did that.
every 5 years, Glenn Close is like, and by the way, I'm bringing the Sunset Boulevard musical
Mhm.
back. Like, she
Yeah.
keeps reviving it, threatening to do it as a movie. There is that part of her that if you said, like, Glenn, what if you put all this energy into Gypsy instead? Would maybe be a better use of everyone's time.
Well, now she's gonna have to kill Nicole Scherzinger. So
Oh, great.
Nicole brought it back to the West End.
Yeah, and
She did?
and apparently
Yeah, Nicole's
she's
on
incredible.
Yeah.
That's what everyone's saying. Everyone.
Absolutely
Playing Norma
stunning.
Desmond?
Yes.
Yes.
She ends up bloody every
Andrew
night.
Lloyd Webber is obsessed with her.
Yeah, it's true.
Absolutely
He has been
obsessed
for a
with
long
Nicole.
time too.
It's the
He's
funniest
obsessed
thing in the
with
world. He's
everybody, though.
obsessed with Nicole Scherzinger.
He is, yeah.
Wow.
Who
Wow.
not you know?
Wow.
Fair, I
Nicole
guess.
Scherzinger as Norma Desmond. Yes,
No,
says the New York Times.
she's doing an amazing job.
Good for her.
Yeah.
That show isn't that good though. Like
never
the
seen it.
Yeah, it's
This
it's
is what I'm
it's a
saying.
B
Glenn
tier
keeps on
show.
being like, I think this time people are really going to like it.
Yeah, right. It's like fundamentally, it's like a weak Andrew Lloyd Webber show, and he's
Yeah.
not the best to begin with. I mean,
What
you know,
are you
God bless him.
talking
Yes, God
about?
bless him. All right, The Mirror Has Two Faces. Welcome. Had you guys seen
Yes.
looked into
Only-
the mirror before?
Only once before. I saw it for the first time in like April 2020.
Yeah, it's because we were all a little young for this in 1996. We weren't rushing to Babs, right?
I was a completist, but not till later. I didn't see it like in theaters. But I'm a Babs completist, obviously.
I did not see it when my mom rented it because I saw the cover. It was like rented with the cover,
Mm.
with the protector over the cover. Because I remember seeing the cover and saying, "Can I watch that with you?" And she said, which I will not ever forget. No, this is a movie for moms. And so for so much of my life, I was like, it's a movie for moms. It really is.
It really is.
It is,
It
which
really
became
is.
your genre later in
Oh
life.
my God! Little did she know. Oh, she knew. But I love movies for moms.
How's your son Bobby doing? He's going to be a mom someday. He's a real mom at
Movies
heart.
Real
for
mom at heart.
moms.
Yeah.
So
It is.
Barbra Streisand's The Mirror Has Two Faces. Jeff Bridges, obviously, Pierce Brosnan, George Siegel, all the greats.
Mimi Rogers,
Mimi
Lauren
Rog.
Bacall, Brenda Vaccaro.
Love Brenda Vaccaro, who has nothing to do in this, but I
No.
love her.
Who that role was Donna Karen wanted to
Karen
play
wanted
it,
it.
who is Babs' real best friend, and said
Jesus.
she said, "I'm your real best friend. Can I play the role?" And Babs said, "Donna, you'd have to memorize lines." And Donna said, "Well, I don't want to do that."
She said, no, but Donna
Oh,
said,
God, good for her.
you missed the best part.
What'd she
Donna
say?
said, I will pay you
$500,000
$500,000
if I
to
could
let
play
me
the
be your
role.
best friend in The Mirror Has Two Faces. And Barbara was like, it's not going to work out.
Babs
Wow.
is obsessed with Donna Karen, her best friend. One time they got massages together, and Babs thought that was the craziest thing that had ever happened.
Because they disrobed, or simply
no,
to
because
do it
the
in the
massage,
same room?
the people who are massaging them did everything in tandem at the same
It
time,
does sound intense, I guess.
and she's obsessed with that.
People
I mean,
started, doing this to Babs and Donna.
the
and
fact that it's
saying-
only one short chapter and there's so much in here really speaks
Yeah.
to kind of the minutia of the movie itself and how much she cares and how much she remembers about the making of this movie, which I think you can see it when you watch all the little details that she perfected.
She is a detail-oriented filmmaker.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, I want to tell you guys about other things she did not make
Okay.
in the sort of interregnum for her directing career. The Normal Heart being the big one. I think we talked
Sure.
about that on the last episode
Yeah.
a little bit.
She was the first choice for Alien 3, right? It was Danny Boyle, Barbra Streisand, then they land on Fincher.
She really wanted to do The Normal Heart, but Larry Kramer wanted to be the sole credited screenwriter. She wanted to keep her options open. Love that.
Yeah.
So funny.
It's always-
She's so
I don't know, Larry.
Larry Kramer v. Barbara Streisand is like, it's like
she
fan
gets
fiction.
along
It's so
with
good, but it's
no
real.
one. Yeah.
She loved the play. She says, I wanted it out in 1987. Everyone who goes into that play comes out understanding why you want to get married to someone. Well put, Barbara. She also wanted to make a Jackson Pollock movie with Robert De Niro at one point. She
Wow.
optioned a book about Jackson Pollock.
Okay.
Streisand was going to play Lee Krasner.
Okay.
So she probably never watched Marcia Gay Harden,
No,
much like Leah Michelle, right? She optioned a book about a gay woman in the Washington State National Guard. Became a television movie starring Glenn Close called Serving in Silence.
Okay.
And
Glenn in the orbit.
exactly.
Mhm.
Remember Serving in
Glenn's
Silence?
in the Rolodex, right?
She served in silence. Love that.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Serving in silence. Could be great.
Could be great.
She brings in another writer on Normal Heart at one point and wants Dustin Hoffman to star. This sounds insane. I don't know. It all falls apart. They're
Sure.
all yelling at each other.
She's
the whole
mentioning
time.
the Normal Heart
The book,
in this
yeah,
chapter.
the book
a lot.
references she took a break from dealing with that. She actually references
Barbra
that
Streisand
she's been.
saying the Normal Heart is her burden is, I think,
Yeah.
so a perfect description of
She
Barbra
says
Streisand.
she's like, I stopped dealing with that to do this
Yeah.
or whatever, and I don't think she ever went back to it.
Also saying that's a movie about marriage is hysterical. Leaving that movie and saying it explains why you want to get married. I'm like, you know what? Fine.
She
Let
doesn't
that be
even
your
say, she
takeaway.
says to a person too. She's not even but
No.
I it's one of those things where I'm like, I get you, Barbara. Okay, yeah. So that all falls apart. They're fighting over who wanted the rights. I don't know. Larry Kramer's obviously in the right about this, where he is like, this is my life story.
The
for
other
fuck's
weird
sake,
part of it is
Barbara.
it's not like she's like, I want to hire another writer. She just said, I want the power to be able to.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Should
but then
I
I think she
decide
started
later?
bringing them in.
Okay.
And they would fight more. Again, like Larry Kramer is not usually going to come off as the sort of sane sort of
Right.
voice of
No.
reason, calm, but I think he maybe does in these fights.
No, and I think we
Yeah.
talked about it in the Prince of Tides episode, but like when she said she wanted to option the play, Larry Kramer was ecstatic, and a lot of his friends are like, "What are you doing?" And
Right.
he said the number one goal was to try to
Right,
like
get it
get
out
the
there.
story onto
Yeah.
a stage. She's going to give it a big stage. I don't expect that she will make a somber, controlled, direct adaptation of the play. She's going to turn it into something else. But even then, with that understanding,
Schlock. She would have turned it into schlock.
sure.
All right, so parallel to all this, there is a French film called The Mirror Has Two Faces.
That's not what it's called,
Le
David.
Miroir à deux faces. About a humble housewife who gets plastic surgery, which makes her mean husband meaner because then he's jealous of how hot she is.
Okay.
Is that the best way to describe it, I think?
I've never seen
basically
it.
the
And then isn't there
synopsis.
murder?
I think it may end in
Double murder.
Oh boy.
Does it end in murder?
I think
Yes, she
it
kills the
does.
doctor. No, he kills the doctor. Someone kills the
Oh,
doctor.
the husband kills
Right,
the
because he's so
doctor.
mad at the
Okay.
doctor for making his
Uh,
wife a bitch.
And then she just decides to be
Hot bitch.
like a housewife again.
The one
Oh.
thing I know about this project is that the American translation is wrong, that this movie uses.
Right.
It's a thing where they're like literally translating
It's
word by
the mirror
word.
with two faces.
It-
like
it basically
the
is-
double-sided mirror.
Yeah, it's
right.
the two-faced mirror.
Right.
Mhm.
And they're going word by word, and they're like, the mirror has two faces.
Mhm.
Which is one of those things where you're like, it sure does.
Well, Barbara,
Wait, what?
Barbara's adaptation was based on that mistranslation.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, like
Yes.
it worked in her favor, kind of.
Absolutely.
She
Well-
said, "Get rid of the murder, get rid of the plastic surgery, and we've got ourselves a movie."
Yeah, let two people stand in front of the mirror.
Some absolute deranged psychopath at TriStar acquires the rights to this French movie. I don't really understand why. And wants to turn it into a comedy vehicle starring John Candy.
Oh my God.
I guess is the husband?
Okay.
Yeah, as who?
Now,
I don't know.
now Ben just
Or
sort
maybe a
of,
gender flip it?
Yeah,
Ben's-
maybe
Ben's
a gender
like,
flip.
I
Ben,
want
should I
it.
flip my
Gender-
Ben's
mic over to you?
considering this deeply.
You're just Ben's just gonna mime he doesn't have a mic. Right?
John Candy getting plastic surgery to look different is sort of like I could see that being funny in 1991.
Candy
you know,
can
like
sell a lot.
yeah.
It would be giving something we're not really allowed to do, which is like kind of fat suit
Mhm.
vibe
Sure.
movie. I don't know.
Would Candy be playing husband and wife? Was that the pitch?
Whoa, Nutty Professor.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh.
Okay.
let's see. All right. Well, I don't know. We don't really know what the Candy version of this
Okay.
movie is. Richard LaGravenese,
Mhm.
LaGravenese,
I think it's
LaGravenese.
LaGravenese.
I don't know. How do you say his last name? We don't know. Is brought in to write it and starts turning it into a rom-com.
Okay.
Prince of Tides and Fisher King, which he also wrote,
Uh-huh.
are in the awards race at the same time. They're the
Okay.
91 movies. And so they keep crossing paths, he says. And he gives her the script. He, had turned a dark melodrama into a romantic comedy about people disillusioned by love. Streisand said, I wanted to make a movie with a happy ending. All of my characters, Fanny, Katie, Yentl, Lowenstein. They all wind up alone. I wanted the girl to finally get the guy.
Yeah.
Yes. You guys seen The Prince of Tides, of course.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And she related it. She related to the mother-daughter relationship here.
Mhm.
To me being a teacher in the film because my father was a teacher. She said, "Okay, my dad went to Columbia, which is the university in the movie. It just felt right."
Okay.
Was
she
he a
saw
stand-up
Columbia.
comedian too?
Her classroom performance in
Oh
this
my
movie,
God.
it is like she is doing the Bernie Mac Def Jam set.
yes.
I have
Her
never
fit.
seen.
Her fit.
There are also like 400 kids in the room, and she seems to know all their names. She's
And
like,
one of them is-
Jimmy,
And they're
Eli Roth.
cracking
Did you
up.
notice?
I
Eli
did
Roth
not
was in
notice
class.
Eli Roth?
I did notice Skipper
And
from
Skipper
Sex and the
Sex and the City
Yeah, Sex
is
and the
in
City.
his class.
Yes, he's in his class. Right.
Eli
He's the one
Roth-
where Jeff Bridges is like, well, I don't know, say a baseball is going through the air, and they're all suddenly like, wait, math could be about baseball?
When they go to the symphony and what's his face is like, who's your girl? And he's like, it's Rose. And he's like, hi, Rose. She sees students from her class up in
Yes.
the balcony, and Eli Roth.
Eli
is
Roth
in
is in. He's in
recognize-
two shots. He's
It's
in
crazy.
earlier in the classroom as well. He's got one ear pierced.
Yeah.
And he is giving a performance that I would say is somewhat swishy.
Yo,
That feels
Swishy.
a little.
He's got those dang
insensitive.
brows.
Yes.
I
He's
would
always
love
got him.
to just have him monologue about his time on this movie. Like, where is that?
He
Where-
probably,
where
someone
is
should
that?
He
ask
made
him.
a film based on it. It's called Thanksgiving.
Oh, God, I haven't seen it yet. I bet they
Gotta
did.
go see Thanksgiving.
So of course, what else attracts Barbara to this project? The idea that she can make a film about appearance,
Mm.
a sermon on beauty. The idea that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, that the world mirrors back to your own perception of yourself based on your experiences as a child. It's about, about all this stuff. She can finally weigh in on it. She says, I've been called an ugly duckling and I've been called one of the most beautiful people in the world.
Mhm.
So, people love my profile. They hate my profile. Her profile gets a lot of work in this one. I really like her
Yes.
profile in this
Mm.
movie.
Yeah.
People think I'm cross-eyed. People love my eyes. Do people think she's cross-eyed?
It's an optical illusion
Yeah.
with her face. She talks about it a lot.
So, that I guess is appealing.
And also, she can call in Marvin Hamlish. I think she
her
just
best
wanted to
friend.
use him again
Mhm.
Right.
after the way we were to give me this sweeping kind of melodramatic old school score.
Also,
It really
this-
does have one.
This was like the cornerstone of her film career in the 70s, was doing the Ryan O'Neal comedies, the way we were is obviously huge, but she had this run where it was she is a comedy star.
She's really
Yeah.
funny.
She makes
She is really
relationship
funny.
comedy, Up to
Yeah.
Sandbox, and what's the baby one called? I always forget the one that where the
Pussycat one.
Yes, but there's the one where
And
the poster is her with the giant baby bottle tied to her
Oh,
back.
I haven't seen
God,
that I
that.
think
I
is
don't
one of the
know.
weirdest movie posters ever.
Fuck.
But she's so good at that comedic delivery, and it's like literally it's stand-up delivery.
Yes.
Like it's punchline, punchy comedy delivery, and
Yes,
she's great
classic.
at it.
Yes, it's the
Classic.
Fanny Bryce. It's the funny girl in her.
Up
She's so
the
funny.
sandbox.
Oh, that's
you
Up
are
the
correct.
Sandbox.
Yes.
What's the
Oh,
Gene
the
Hackman one?
The Gene Hackman one is called The Main Event. No, that's Burt Reynolds.
No,
or-
Main Event's the second Ryan O'Neal.
That's Ryan O'Neal, right?
She does like 5 consecutive John Peters produced men and women are fighting with each other comedies.
Often with kind of All Night Long.
Thank
is
you.
the Hackman one.
Yeah.
Yes.
I always wonder watching this, like with her perspective on beauty and being like, people think I'm ugly, people think I'm beautiful. How well she shoots herself is so interesting to me, because it's like, it's almost like she's shooting from the perspective of someone who thinks that she's beautiful. So then I think about her inner monologue of, am I beautiful, am I not? I think she has confidence, because you wouldn't shoot yourself
Yeah.
so confidently otherwise. Like you're saying, so many profile shots.
Yeah.
It's like she must know that like that's the money.
Well,
She
that
is-
was the
Yes.
fight with the original
obsessed with
cinematographer.
that, yeah.
Because
Yeah.
she was like, I don't look right in these shots. You're not using the right filter. And he's
Right.
like, yes, I am. She finds out that he's lying to
yeah,
her
right.
Mhm.
and fires him because she's like, I know how I look good.
Yeah.
No,
and
I
you're
know.
not shooting
And there are
me right.
scenes where there's just gorgeous light across her,
Yes.
almost
Mhm.
like a mask or something, and you're like, oh my, only someone who really knows the way that they look the best is shooting her.
Like
Like it
we
is.
will
She must
event-
have a folder this big
Oh,
of
yeah.
like the light
It's
required.
incredible.
Yes,
The
yes.
scene where they're watching baseball, I don't know, in some like little room, you're like, the
Mhm.
light on her is like ethereal. He looks
when
good
she,
too,
when
but
she watches baseball,
Ugh.
and she's like, "Let's get a rally going."
Yeah.
And Fred's like,
Ugh.
I don't understand
Yeah.
baseball.
he's like, it's ratios, right? It's
I have a bow
ratios.
tie.
It's math.
This is a movie where the lighting is so soft that even if they were to release it in 4K, it would be in standard
Yeah.
def.
Yeah.
You know, where it's just like, it is so controlled. But we will get to all the reviews of this
Sure.
movie, which will be its own section at the end of this episode, because people really attacked her. And the cornerstone of all the reviews, weirdly, I would say, especially the ones from female critics, were like, this movie is just so obsessed with her shooting herself
Yeah.
in the way she wants. It's all her saying, please don't look at me, I'm hideous, and framing herself in the most beautiful way. And there's a quote, I think it's from Janet Maslin's review, that says, the camera cannot help but love her even when it has a gun to its head.
Yeah.
It's good.
Also
But
her
I-
gun.
But the movie, I think that I read those reviews too, and I was like, wow, people were so nasty about this movie,
Vicious.
specifically because of that, because
Yeah.
of her vanity. But the movie does the turn in the middle, the iconic, the beautiful, memorable scene with, Lauren Bacall saying it was wonderful about beauty, which I'm sure we'll talk about
Best scene
later,
in the movie.
ends with the kind of, which I had forgotten about because I've only seen this like 3 times, but I had forgotten about the turn at the end of that scene where Barbara realizes that she has always been beautiful.
Yes.
Like
Right.
yes, she gets the workout montage after that, and then she
Insane.
gets sexy hair, whatever, and like starts dressing like in more form-fitting clothes. But in that scene, she realizes, wait, I was seeing myself through the eyes of my
The
mother.
child photo. Yeah.
Like
Right.
I was always seeing myself through the eyes of my mother. I've always been pretty.
Yeah.
The conversation she has with Bacall, in I believe that, but the scene where she's saying, "Was I pretty as a baby?" Is Streisand says that is a conversation she had with her mother,
I
like word for word.
Crazy. Right. In the book, she's like, why did you never tell me I'm beautiful? And her mother's like, I thought you knew. Or like, why did I loved you the way that I could. I didn't know I had to say it or something. Like stuff like that.
Yeah, so I don't want to hyperfixate on it, but I do think it is like necessary to forefront in the conversation. Barbra Streisand not getting a nose job in the 1960s was basically the most transgressive act she
Right.
could possibly do in constructing a career
True.
as a movie star. And it continues to be the thing. And I think for as much critics were just like, why won't she fucking get over it? Everyone's loved her for 40 years. Get over it. We all think you're pretty. Stop it. It's like, this is an industry that is largely created by Jews, where everyone is told to change their name in their face to not play Jewish, right?
And she doesn't because
She
of
said,
her
"No, no."
voice.
Yes.
Which is hilarious because, again, she doesn't even like singing that much.
No.
She actually really wanted to be a movie star this entire time. The singing is secondary, which is wild because obviously she's a fine actor. She's a fine to good actress, but she's an
Yes.
amazing singer, right? Like that's the thing. She doesn't even really care about that. So the idea that she is focused on her appearance from the very beginning, I wonder if she wasn't also a singer, which kind of got her into acting through the back door, she would have gotten the nose job because it would have nothing to do with
She
singing.
had this thing that was like negotiating leverage. You can't think of any other actor who kind of refused to give into the standards of beauty and constructing a career as a leading lady over a run of decades, more than she did, where you're like, Jennifer Grey gets the nose job 10 years before this movie, after Barbara has been a star for 25 years.
So Richard LaGravenesse,
Yes.
right, gives her the script. She's like, this script needs a lot of work. Not surprising that she would say that. But she did do a table reading with.
She said, I'm bringing in Larry Kramer.
We're on very good terms.
She does a table read with, Jenna Rollins, I assume would have been the mom.
Makes a ton of sense.
Incredible.
Ray Liotta, I assume in the Bridges role?
Yeah.
I don't really
Demented.
know.
Definitely.
George Siegel, all right, so
Same.
kept Terry Garr, so maybe she's the
Mimi
Mimi
Rogers.
Rogers.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Peter Bogdanovich, is he Pierce Brosnan?
Sure.
And Carrie Fisher,
Best
maybe is
friend.
the best
Friend
friend.
of
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Quite a cast for a reading, but the script
Okay.
needed a lot of work, so I set it aside to focus on developing the normal heart, preparing my concert at the MGM Grand, going on tour, and producing the Glenn Close movie.
Yeah.
I love how Barbara's just always like, I was busy, to be clear. She approached Robert Zemeckis at one point to maybe direct it. She was like, maybe I shouldn't direct this, just star in it.
Maybe the script should be hella horny.
You know from boobs, Zemeckis.
Yeah.
Herbert Ross, she says, and then
Herbert Ross makes a ton of sense.
and then Gary Marshall.
Okay. Well,
She goes
there
to
we
Gary
go.
Marshall and he said, "Are you going to tell me where to put the camera?" And I thought, this will never work.
Yeah.
said Streisand. She gets a new draft and she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna now I'm gonna direct this."
Mhm.
The plastic surgery thing, of course, like you said, she doesn't want to do that. She wants the self-esteem issues to be deep from childhood, something internal. So they lift all that
Well,
out.
it's also this thing of like, I need to will people into finding my beauty attractive, not changing what my beauty is.
There's also just no way this movie could have involved her getting plastic surgery without giving her a nose job that she refuses to get in real life.
Correct.
So
Right.
it's just, how would they
Like a
even
CGI
We don't have
CGI
the
her in the
CGI
nose
stuff
she
there.
could have had? Like,
Could you
there's no
imagine
way.
We didn't have
This
D-nose
movie
technology.
Could have made her
in
nose bigger and then
1996.
made it go smaller at the end. Like, there's no way.
Could you imagine this movie having 1996 era CGI nose work?
like a weird blur.
They
Like
hadn't-
if she moves her face
they
head too
hadn't
fast, like
perfected
the
it yet.
nose changes size.
I like that this movie is so much like the vanity, the beauty stuff is in its DNA. That's clearly the story that she wants to tell. But because of, I guess, the trend of romantic comedies at the time, she's like, we also have to like break down the relationship, romance. Let's do let's be about two neurotic people who are hyper fixated on like romance and sex, just because like that's what all the other movies were doing around that
Yes.
time, which is why it feels like two different
Totally.
rom-coms happening
But then
once.
also this movie's take on that is the only person who could ever fall in love with Barbra Streisand someone who doesn't care about being sexually attracted to or having sex with that person? Like, that's her weird...
It's weird because her real husband is horny for her. And
Totally.
in every interview, when they're together, he's always like, I'm so horny for her. That's like their whole relationship.
Yeah.
Jim.
Big Jim.
LaGravenesse says he thinks they never quite cracked the script. He blames
no.
himself.
Of course they never cracked the script. The whole movie is saying sex doesn't matter. It's all about like sex doesn't matter at all. And then in the end of the movie, it's like sex does matter and looks are important. And here's Puccini. Like,
Yeah.
The problem with the movie is, yes, when
It
Bridges is describing this arrangement, you're like,
Yeah.
well, he's wrong.
yeah.
Yes.
And you
He-
know that.
He dismantles this structure. Then they literally rebuild the structure and then just fall in love inside of it. Like that's what they're doing in this movie.
This movie
But I
al-
like it.
Right.
I
He
mean-
just falls in love with his friend.
Yeah.
This movie also there are two movies that came out in 1996 that have 6 acts that are about people who get married and then fall in love an hour later into the movie. This and Jerry Maguire.
Oh,
sure.
Like
sure.
two
Of
movies
course.
where it's like, right, they get married and then the end of the movie is them being like, I think we're in love with each other. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you fucking better be. You
Well, at
got
the end,
married
he's
and
like,
moved in together.
Will you marry me? And she's like, I already am married to you. And it's like, that is
Buster.
this whole movie.
Now let's
Don't you
run
remember the
around
City
Madison
Hall scene
Avenue.
an hour and a
Remember they
half
got
ago?
married already?
I wasn't even thinking about that, but this movie coming out the same year as Jerry Maguire is really
Yeah.
a death knell for that. Like,
the reason you weren't thinking that is
Yeah.
because I said to my wife as well, Forky, while watching this movie, when do you think this came out? She's like, I don't know, the mid 80s. And I was like, nope, 1996.
Well, I remember, look, because I remember seeing this trailer in theaters. I knew it came out when I was old
when you
enough
were
to have consciousness
10
or
years
whatever.
older. I
But
was
still,
10.
like, Jerry Maguire is immediately going like, this is what this movie looks like now. Here's the most modern version of this movie. And in theaters, I mean, basically at the same time as this movie, which is two stars who have been huge for 30 years, doing the most bizarre, like it's simultaneously a 40s movie, a 60s movie, and an 80s movie.
Jerry Maguire is such a weird movie.
But also, Jerry
Love that
Maguire is a
movie.
crazy movie. Like,
It's
they're all
crazy
crazy
movie.
movies.
It's
Crazy
crazy.
movie.
Yeah. Like Jerry Maguire's a movie when described, you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
No
It's
one
like
would
describing
watch that.
every Cameron Crowe movie. When you speak it out, you're like,
Yes.
well, no, but it's...
That's why he got to keep making movies where he'd be like, they're going to buy a zoo. And I'm like, I don't think that's
Yeah.
a good idea. And he's like, it's always worked for me before.
It's the Amy Pascal email where she's just like, we cannot keep greenlighting these movies.
Sent from my Sony Xperia, whatever. Yeah.
right.
Two.
Two.
David?
Yep.
I feel like you have something to tell me.
Well, let me tell you,
Oh boy, he's ready.
I'm really looking here
At what?
a really interesting information packet
You don't say. Please share.
about a CCOF certified meal kit company called Green Chef.
Green Chef.
Whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, or just looking to eat some more balanced meals.
And I'm all of the above.
Wow, that's tough.
Yeah, it is.
That's a tough platter.
My life's a nightmare.
Green Chef offers a range of recipes to suit your preferences. Okay, it's America's #1 meal kit for clean eating.
Ugh.
You've got delicious, gut-friendly recipes every week, right? They've
Yeah.
got a mouth-watering array of nutritious dinners, clean snacks, and functional drinks. They're going to actively support the well-being of your gut and enhance cognitive health. You might guess why I might be pitching those to you right now, Griffin. Your gut need help.
Stable gut, clean brain. Go on.
You're going to enjoy some nutrient-dense, science-backed gut and brain health recipes developed in partnership with registered dietitians that improve digestion, reduce bloat, and boost energy and immunity. But hey, if you don't want to like go that specific path, they've got all kinds of variety. They got calorie smart recipes. Like I said, they got keto, plant-based, Mediterranean, protein packed.
Wow.
You can mix and match, obviously, from different dietary preferences if you want. And these dinners, they take like 30 minutes to make, Griffin. Lunches take 10 minutes to make.
This is the right amount of time.
They deliver them anywhere you need to make it convenient, wholesome, and delicious. And you can stock up on tasty extras in their green market.
Give me some examples.
Grab and go breakfasts.
What?
Brunch kits.
Huh?
Ready to eat snacks.
Oh my
Veggie
Lord.
sides.
What?
Okay.
I've never heard of such a thing.
Veggie sides?
Yeah.
You've just been eating like slabs of meat as a side?
Yeah, and actually, it ties into why my gut isn't doing so
Yeah.
I
would
get with
think.
meat with a side of meat.
Well, of course, we have worked with HelloFresh in the past and may have in the future. So we,
Just
Green
read the
Chef
example
is
part.
now owned by HelloFresh, and there's a wider array of meal plans to choose from there. Something for everyone, but you can switch between the brands. I love doing
I
it.
love doing
And now my listeners can enjoy both brands at a discount with me. So here's some nice recipes they've got. Creamy turkey bolognese with spaghetti squash.
Oh.
Cobia with lemon aioli. I believe that's a kind of fish. Italian roasted carrots and barley. This is all in the gut health section
Okay.
of Green Chef. Truffle linguine with chicken. Does that sound good?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, go to greenchef.com/60blankcheck and use code 60blankcheck, that's 60blankcheck, to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. That's greenchef.com/60blankcheck, code 60blankcheck to get 60% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. It's the #1 meal kit for eating well. So Le Gravenas is very much like, I really hate that people called it a vanity project because like it's my script and I don't think I like got it right. Like I think I could have worked on it more. He loves her. She's from an old school. She works her heart out. She doesn't suffer fools. She demands you're as committed as she, he's like full of praise for like old Brooklyn Babs, So John Candy, of course, is not the star. Jeff Bridges is the star. What do you think of that guy?
She says he has a
Sexy.
strong masculine body in her book.
I mean,
Thought you guys would enjoy that.
he does.
I love that the
does.
movie has to sort of it establishes her as like undesirable and not pretty so quickly by being like, here she is with her snowballs hidden in her drawer, and like she's frumpy watching baseball, and she lives with her mother. But it also sort of
It has to make him
egalitarian.
sexy.
It has to make him sexy as on the nose as it makes her like not sexy.
Yes.
Because it's like he's hot. It's like Indiana Jones. All the students want to fuck him, and also they're like, is he gay? He's so hot. He must be gay, which is a very like 90s
He's too
joke.
boring to be.
Yeah,
gay.
he's too boring to be gay.
Right.
And then it's like, not only is he sexy, like he loves sex, and sex makes him crazy, and his
And he's
girlfriends are
dating
hot.
a model,
Yeah.
right? And
He's
so
a
like
weird
he must be
nerd.
hot
Right.
because he's dating models.
Yeah, Elle McPherson
Who we know
climbed him
is a
like a
model.
tree.
Right.
She sure is.
His,
But also when he sees Elle McPherson, he like
He's like,
basically falls off the podium.
Well, wait, but isn't that the kind of, it's like he's obsessed with sex because when he sees a hot woman, he cannot think or breathe.
Right.
And that's when he gives the first scene, which again never happens really again, is that he's on his little podium, and the shots are going crazy because his brain is breaking because there's all these hot girls like whispering about
He's
him.
got-
It's a
let's-
wooga.
Yeah,
He,
it's a
he,
wooga.
he
Yeah.
has a heart attack.
He turns into a Jerry Lewis
Yeah,
character.
so that never comes back, but I think that is mainly the main thing where obviously sex complicates things, but he cannot think or be smart or do anything when there's hot women in his vicinity.
But it's such a weird way to characterize that, to see exactly one example of this playing out, which is he goes and does a reading. Elle McPherson's in the audience. He goes gaga from like boob
Yeah.
vision, right?
And then she's like, by the way, we were in a committed relationship.
Right. He goes to George Siegel, goes, whatever you do, make sure I don't
Don't
fuck
go
her
home with her, yeah.
tonight.
but
And then
they've
she
been
comes
together.
Yes.
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
Then-
Why would he still be like
Right.
blown away at the sight?
Then-
No, she's very pretty.
And he's
Then they sleep together. Both of them are like, that was incredible. What amazing sex we have together. By the way, I'm leaving. Why? Well, because I'm still with the guy I left you for. I'm cheating on him with you because I found out he's cheating on me with someone else.
She's getting it
Score's
out of
settled.
her system.
I'm
Right.
leaving. Nice seeing you. And he's like, I can never, ever have sex ever
I
again
know,
in my
well,
life.
it is funny
Put up
because
my
like
cock ad right now. My ball cell ad.
Oh my god.
the movie at least goes with that for the rest of it because he's never horny again.
No.
No.
Like for the rest of the movie, it really does seem like he's
But I'm like,
never thinking about sex.
There's a more logical version of this movie where in the first 10 minutes we see like 3 examples of his sex obsession getting to him, rather than this one thing that just feels like you still feel kind of jilted by Elle McPherson
Right.
specifically.
It's
Right,
too specific. He should be
What's-
going on dates and being weird with women.
What's
I
that
gotta date an
movie
ugly lady.
with-
Like it's like 0 to 60
Yeah.
in 2 seconds.
Wait, what's that movie with Josh Hartnett where he flies over the boobs?
40 days and 40
That's
nights.
what this movie.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
is like what this movie reminded me of immediately. I was like, but that movie takes the premise
to be
so
fair,
much.
everything reminds you of that movie.
I love
just,
that movie.
just speak.
When
on-
you're
So
in a
right.
plane, you fly over
Over
DVD
the
copies of
tits?
40 Days and 40
So
Nights.
crazy.
You just see the poster.
I'm like, whoa.
Can we
great movie.
can we dig into Jeff Bridges?
yes, to speak
Yeah.
on
Oh,
Bridges.
yeah.
Because Forky
Speak
was
on
asking
Bridges.
about him.
Sure. Your
And
wife,
I was
Forky.
trying to sort of like, because he's had so many phases in his career.
Right.
And this
The
is
Bridges has many phases.
right.
Oh,
and
God.
this is the last film before The Big Lebowski. And
Which
The Big
is
Lebowski
our
is
generation's
wild.
Jeff Bridges.
Right.
That's,
And that's
who
the
I
mo-
think of.
You sort of forget how much the Coens had unlocked something no one had with him
Yes.
in that movie. Now you're kind of like, yeah, of course Jeff Bridges is the dude. Like that's what we know him as.
Not
Like
only that, but one of those weird cases I'd argue similar to Morgan Freeman winning the Oscar for $1 Million Baby, where his true grit, not true grit, I'm sorry, his Crazy Heart win is kind of them going like, and here's the Oscar 20 years later for Big Lebowski. It took us 20
right.
years to totally get this. And then off of the Oscar win, it's like he has this second Billy Goat gruff film career
Right.
playing. Yeah.
But
love
but our
Crazy
generation
Heart.
did
I
not see
love-
him as
I'm sorry.
That's
I'm not the
such a
person.
Bobby
Sexy
type.
man.
I'm not the person for you to say that to. He earned every bit of that award for
Oh my
Crazy Heart
God.
Griffin.
so drunk.
I should mention,
Are you
Bobby is
kidding
wearing an
me?
Oscars hat right now.
Oh, God.
I
he got it at
and
the
I
Academy
got it at
Museum.
the Academy Museum
Really?
in LA. I wore it.
Yeah.
For, well, I
Have
wear
you
it all
guys
the
been
time.
there yet?
No, I gotta
I've
go.
been
The
to
only
Academy
good part of the
Museum.
Academy Museum, this hat.
I
that I
know.
got
Oh,
from
you didn't
Yentl.
like it. You're not a
actually,
fan.
oh my God.
It
Speaking of
sucked.
Barbara,
Oh, we didn't get to go to the Barbra
we
Streisand
go
Bridge.
to the Academy Museum so we can see the Barbra Streisand memorial. It's not memorial. She's not dead. Bridge, which is just a bridge that goes
That takes you
from
from the museum to the theater.
to the theater.
Wow.
And guess what? It's fucking closed. Can I swear
was
on this
closed.
podcast?
What happened to it?
They had closed it for a private
A
event.
private
There was a
event.
tugboat
I
coming through. They had to lift it.
have never been angrier. All
We
I
were so
wanted
mad.
was a picture of me in front of this stupid bridge.
Yeah.
You got to pay $50 to get in this museum,
Wow,
which
it's
we
got
did
a
not pay.
big-
We didn't pay.
We got tickets for free. It's fine.
It's got a big
The
sign.
first words when you walk into the first exhibit at the Motion Picture Museum and the Academy Museum are, I believe this is a direct quote, motion pictures, comma, also known as movies and films, comma. And I was like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Where's the gift shop?
Yeah, it wasn't for us. But Bobby got this great hat, which
It's a great hat.
was
It's a
worth.
great-
was
Y'all
worth
got
it.
any hats?
Yeah, I love it.
Okay.
Bridges. I want to
Bridges.
Sorry.
Bridges.
forgive me.
And
No,
Bridges,
it's fine.
Barbra
What do you want
Streisand
to
Bridge,
say?
Yeah.
Jeff Bridges.
Oh, yes.
Because I
Amazing
can
and
give you
crazy
the
heart.
phases, but
Bridging.
if you just want to say, if you have a bridge mission statement, I will.
No, let's maybe do the phases
So
first.
like early Bridges is like the young, sort of exciting, like Thunderbolt and Lightfoot,
Mhm.
Last Picture
Show, Fat City.
Well, Tron, I'd say, is the beginning of phase 2.
Yeah, King Kong is maybe the height of it, where
Yeah.
it's sort of like at that point they're like, okay, this guy's a movie star, but he's young and he's
Sure.
virile and he's kind of like, he's what's new, right?
And he had this sort of like glib
Two
kind
Oscar
of
noms, yeah.
yeah, handsome doofus with a good heart kind of
Oh.
yeah.
I guess Heaven's Gate is sort of I don't know. Heaven's Gate's kind of is straddling the next period because it's so poorly received. His 80s are weird.
Mhm.
Tron, Starman, Jagged Edge, 8 Million Ways to Die. I'm trying to think. Like, it's a lot of like thrillers.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yeah, which he's great.
What's
in.
Tucker?
He's really good. It's
Tucker
the
Man in His Dreams, the Coppola film.
never seen
Coppola
that.
movie
Oh,
about
Bobby.
the inventor, Preston Tucker. It's a good movie.
Wonderful
Mhm.
film.
But it's one of those many, like he does a lot of big movies that don't connect box office.
When does he get sexy?
When is he get?
See,
When
I'd
doesn't he get
say-
sexy?
'cause,
Okay,
Against
well-
All Odds is maybe the most handsome he ever was in a movie.
He's very handsome in Against All.
Is
He's
this
always handsome.
Is this
He's
like,
always handsome.
But
This
is this
part
the
of my
sexiest that he is? This
I
Okay,
think
well, so-
80s is peak sexy.
I think his
If we're not
sexy-
talking handsome, we're
Okay.
talking sexy.
I think his
Yeah.
sexiest is when my mom thinks he's sexiest in her
Okay.
second favorite film of all time, The Fabulous Baker Boys, which is straddling periods 2 and 3.
Oh,
in my
I
opinion.
love that movie.
Incredible movie. Have
Yeah.
you seen?
Yes,
Have you
yes.
tinkled the
No,
ivories?
of course I have.
Oh,
Where he's sort of moving into slightly more mature, 40-something Bridges.
He's playing sad, haunted drunk in that.
But he's hot. As
I think that's
hell.
peak handsome. I think
Okay,
90s
fine.
are his
All right,
handsome
all right.
decade. I think 80s are his hunk decade.
okay.
So-
I think 70s are his cute decade.
Yeah, he's very
I
cute.
mean, I
in
would
the
argue
70s.
Babs finds him handsome more than sexy
Yeah,
in, this,
and I
in
think-
this movie too. So.
And I think that speaks to what I was saying earlier. Like the movie isn't quite convinced that that this guy is really handsome.
right.
And that's why it establishes him as like
Right.
extremely handsome at the beginning because it's like a little nervous about
Right.
it.
His 90s are Fisher King,
Uh-huh.
Vanishing, like a lot of
Right.
sort of dark sort of thriller, Fearless, Blown
Yeah.
Away, White Squall.
Yes.
Which great
handsome.
movie. Very
Oh,
handsome.
handsome.
Mhm.
Everyone in that. The
Yeah.
Hottie Parade.
Arlington Road,
Sausage Fest.
handsome.
Oh
We
my
were
God.
talking
Arlington
about
Road,
Arlington
which is
Road.
a couple
I
years
cut
after
the
this.
Arlington Road
Oh, you
bit
cut the
from the
Arlington Road
podcast
bit.
earlier.
Oh.
Sorry.
Can we put it in here?
Yeah, Bobby goes.
What's the bit? Can you replicate
What
the
did I
bit?
say? It wasn't even a bit. I was
It-
talking about Arlington Road.
But why?
It was about something about conspiracy theories.
Yeah, we were talking about conspiracy
Yeah.
theories, and you said Arlington Road is a great movie, and then I said,
But
"What's
Lindsay
it
said
about?"
it taught America the wrong lessons, which is that
Your
you're right.
neighbor,
Right.
Your
You're right.
neighbor
'Cause I
actually
said-
All of your
did
crazy
do
conspiracy
it.
theories,
Right.
you're right,
We
and you
can't
should lean
have
into those
those
impulses.
movies anymore.
Did
No, it's a
Arlington
dangerous
Road
movie.
launch Q is the question.
You know what? Put it on somewhere
didn't
on the
not.
corkboard.
It
It did
didn't
not
not.
launch Q.
It did not.
I did it not.
But he's also a professor in that. It's like that professorial handsomeness is what he kind of leaned into in this era.
Well, and
Yes.
I find
The
it interesting.
Muse, he's in that.
In like the 70s, he is like such a boy, right? Like in his 20s and
Yeah.
teens, he's playing like
Clint Eastwood is
boyish
sneering
young
at him.
America.
yeah.
And then in the 90s, it's like, this is the ultimate man.
Mm-hmm.
Not like the ultimate man's
an
man, but you're
adult.
like, this is an adult man.
There's a Kurt Russell sort of arc to him too. You know, like
Yes.
like very childlike and cutie innocent, and then like scary action hunk, and then just sort of a
Broad-chested.
gruff, handsome man that all the hot ladies
Well,
want
and
to
they
fuck.
also, they
you know?
both
They
had
both-
this thing.
They both make movies people like that don't do well.
That's what I was going to
Yes,
say.
yeah.
It's this fascinating thing where they're both like basically former child stars
Right.
who have decades long careers where they age perfectly and everyone loves them.
Their Q score is always high.
Right.
Not QAnon.
Yeah,
Right.
we got
and
it.
like 10 years later, all of their
Although-
movies are beloved.
yeah.
But you look at their box office runs and they're like never actually
Right.
bankable, but in an era where enough mid to low budget movies get made at a studio level and there are only so many Harrison Fords, It's like, yeah, it makes sense to put Jeff Bridges in Jagged Edge.
Yeah.
It makes sense to put him in this.
It makes sense to put him in like everything.
Wait, can I read you guys this? So she brings him on, and why she likes him so much is because she goes to hang out with his family, and Babs loves his family. She loves his mom. And she says, as soon as I heard Jeff talk about his mother, I knew he would be easy to direct. And this is in parentheses.
Sure.
If you're going out with a man on a date, your first question should be, what was your relationship with your mother like? So that's what I love. It's like,
So she's
like,
calling him a mama's boy.
she's calling mama's boy.
and
She says,
saying-
I can manipulate him
Right.
if I act basically as his mother, kind of as the director, but then kind of like as his girl. Like she's already like, I'm going to have the dual role of being his lover and his mother on the set of this movie, which
Interesting.
You got to love
It's
that.
palpable.
And also kind of translates to
Yeah.
the movie
Yeah.
a little
Yes.
bit.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because he kind of has to grow up in the movie.
Yes,
I have a
definitely.
bigger Bridges thought I want to unpack, but first I just want to throw a general question to the table that hit me while watching this
Why
movie.
isn't the Academy Bridge the Jeff Bridges Bridge?
That's what it should be.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
there's multiple
Barbara
floors.
gave
Add
them-
another one.
Barbara gave them so much money, I bet.
Yeah,
If he could pony up the money too.
What if it was the Jeff Bridge directed by Barbra Streisand?
She'd like that too. When she did not go, she's never been to the bridge 100%. And
Sure.
in the promotion for the bridge, there's a Photoshop
Yes.
photo of her sitting on a director's chair.
I
Classic.
saw this.
Badly
like,
photoshopped.
It's
Badly,
horrible.
It
badly.
defies the laws of physics.
Incredible.
It's
Anyways,
Photoshop.
so she knows she's a director and she would
She
like
knows.
you to know it too.
Here's my question. Jeff Bridges, and this is an earnest question.
JB.
The best career length, okay? Hair in the history of
Oh,
movies.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
yes.
for
Is
sure.
there
Yes.
a star who has had no bad hair, period? I was doing a thorough Google search, and I was like, is there a single movie where his
Jude
hair
Law.
looks
Jude
dumb?
Law's really close.
No, but Jude Law recently has been.
He's lost
it's
the hair.
something's going on.
God bless him.
Have you seen when
Bradley
he's-
Cooper's too young,
when
but by
he's
the time
Hook?
Bradley Cooper's
No.
85, we'll be having this conversation again.
Cooper can grow some locks
Yeah.
out. There's no doubt about
you
it.
want
But no,
any-
Bridges has a
Any
great hair.
Bridges movie,
I will
you're not
say
just
with the
like great head of hair,
Expanse,
you're
yeah.
like magical.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It takes on shapes that you cannot believe. The color is beautiful. When he grays, it still looks great. And you're like, it looks good long. It looks good short.
Even in Crazy Heart, my beloved Crazy Heart,
Yeah.
as you know, it's like it's sort of sloppy,
From
but
10
it's
minutes
still
ago.
it's still beautiful.
Yes.
Like it's
Now,
luscious. It's
He
thick.
shaved it in Iron Man. Risky. Looks great.
He looks great. And the beard looks
great.
great.
He grew it right back.
He grew right back.
God, it comes back.
Box of scraps.
That was the other thing. You're like, what a great head of hair this guy has. Shaves it all off. Perfectly shaped dome.
Yeah,
Wow.
right.
Kurt Russell, good hair, but he doesn't quite style
Russell's
it
got good
in as elegant of a way.
No.
He usually has sort of
But he's
the
got thick
same
hair.
haircut.
Yeah.
He's got good
Yeah.
hair.
Yeah.
He's honestly, that's a reason to compare them, actually. They both have really
I'm
great hair.
talking
Mhm.
both levels, though. Like,
I know what you're
innate
saying.
genetics, and also just, has it ever looked bad on screen? Has there ever
Yes.
been a wrong?
And
That's a good
also,
point.
this is, hair loss technology has come very far in the past 10 years.
Sure.
And so this
Yeah.
was all before that too.
Totally.
So they're working with genetics, and that you have to be amazed by.
He remains my favorite movie president. That movie, The Contender, is not a very good movie.
Yeah.
But the whole movie, anytime, have you seen The Contender?
Yeah.
Anytime it
He's
cuts to
incredible.
him, he's ordering a sandwich from the White House
Yes.
chef.
Yes.
And he's like, you're just like, this is like the sort of Bill Clinton we want. Like, like the guy who's just like, hey, let's get a sandwich. Like that's what he's
Obama
like
has
in that
also said
movie.
it's his favorite movie president. Now, this is part of my Jeff Bridges
Really?
take on this. Yeah, Obama
Fucking
always
Obama
says that's his favorite movie
Digging
president.
on me.
Jeff Bridges is kind of fundamentally wrong for this movie
Yes.
in that
he's a good actor.
he's a great actor. I think, and I don't think he gives a bad performance in this movie. He's an example of a guy where I'm like, he is almost incapable of giving a bad performance. He is such a consummate pro.
It's not a lazy performance.
But he can give a performance like this that is good, that actually works against the film, where it's not even just physical appearance aside, right? He is too innately charismatic, compelling, and has chemistry with everyone he's ever on screen with to make the basic setup of this movie work, which is this guy is sort of boring,
Right.
head in the clouds.
He would not be a bad teacher in the way that
He's
this guy
got
would.
some
right.
animal
Yeah.
magnetism on a purely sexual way, but he can't. His head's all over the place. He's not connecting with his students. He can't pin a woman down to him. Where I'm just like, why would Elle Macpherson leave him?
Well, there's no way that it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't work that he's all the women in the class
He's
are
too
like, he's
affable.
so hot, but he's a bad teacher and not charismatic. That doesn't make sense. It would have like they put that in there obviously to have the baseball thing make sense. And she's
Oh, and which
yeah,
fails,
it doesn't.
to be
And
clear.
she's, she's the queen of the. She's not hot, but she's an amazing teacher. Like
Yes.
wow, and
She just
she's teaching him, and that's kind of why he loves her so much and whatever. But
it's why he's impressed with her.
She
why he
always
wants
sells
to-
out her sets when she
yeah,
teaches.
they're clamoring for more. What does she teach?
literature. English
She seems
literature.
to teach like
The human
medieval
heart.
literature.
Medieval literature.
Yeah.
Like almost because
Okay.
like she's
It's unclear.
talking about Jungian archetypes
Right,
and like
right.
princesses in
Courtly
castles
love.
and
Yeah.
how's Forever the Bridesmaid and her boobs at one point she's talking
talks
about
about her boobs.
Yeah, I got breasts.
I got boobs. You never seen boobs before?
I give her a standing ovation for that delivery.
I think what you were saying about maybe it
Skippers
doesn't have
taking
anything to do
notes.
with his physical appearance.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of does.
It
I
also
think you're
does.
right. Like you were talking about the difference between sexy Jeff Bridges and handsome Jeff Bridges, and I think it needed to be a sexier guy,
Okay,
like
so-
almost scummier guy.
Okay,
So
so
here's
who?
a hot pitch.
Pierce
Here's a
Brosnan.
hot pitch. Thank you, Lindsay.
Yeah.
This is my pitch. Does this movie work better? I'm not saying it
No,
solves
it's obviously this is
everything.
the same
I know
year
what
as
you're gonna say.
Goldeneye.
Pierce
correct?
Brosnan
It's
as
the
the main
year
guy.
between Goldeneye and Tomorrow Never Dies.
Right. Okay. So he's pretty famous at
Yes,
this point.
the
Right,
other
and Babs
movie-
thinks she can't
you
get
make
him.
him the
She
Mrs.
puts him.
Doubtfire
She puts his
character.
name in, and they say she goes, "I couldn't get him. I want a him type." And they go, "Well, you should ask him." And he said yes.
Because she's Barbara. Like
Yeah.
it's you watch this and you go, this must be in his Mrs. Doubtfire period before he's Bond, and you're
Oh,
like, no,
he's so
she got
good in
him
that.
in between Bonds because she's
Crazy.
Barbara.
Yeah.
The other movie he does in 1996 is Mars Attacks, where I would argue he's playing the type
So
that the
buttoned
Jeff
up
Bridges
nerd.
character is trying
Yeah.
to be,
Yeah.
where he's got this crush on Sarah Jessica Parker, and it's like, here's this incredibly handsome scientist who like doesn't know how to relate to other human beings. I think if this movie has those two parts flipped, where Bridges is playing the Brosnan and Brosnan is playing the Bridges, the dynamics kind of work better.
Because also Mimi Rogers needs to be a little jealous of what Barbara ends up getting,
Yes.
and it doesn't make sense.
No.
Yeah.
Also, in a perfect world, at the end they don't end up together, which I know goes against Babs' entire thing. But she should be like, "F you, bye." I'm like, she's a kind of
But
she doesn't want to deal
you
with
know
him
what the
anymore.
problem is?
What
What?
she does with Pierce Brosnan, it should have been that is the end of the movie.
Pierce isn't Barbara's type.
Right.
Jeff Bridges, you put Jeff Bridges and James
would agree
Brolin
with
next
that.
to each other, and
Totally.
you get it.
That's true.
Totally.
Pierce wouldn't have brought her home to his
He's a
family
little
and
younger
all
than
that.
Bridges
But
too.
for
Although not
her-
that much younger.
For this movie, maybe she needs to not cast her
Yeah.
type. You know?
No,
Like,
I think it would have been a better.
I love Pierce, but Pierce is capable of successfully being boring on screen when he wants to be.
Right. I mean, look at James Brolin. James Brolin and Jeff, we're talking the same guy.
Brolin
Yeah,
can
same
be
guy.
boring. Bridges cannot be boring. Bridges
No,
has
Bridges is
never
so-
been boring on screen.
You're right.
yeah, he's not a
It's
lazy actor, like I
No.
said. Yeah.
And once again, he has chemistry with everyone. He is always connected to
He had
whoever
chemistry
he's
with
talking
Arlington
to.
Road, the fucking road,
road.
the gravel.
The road was going, whew. No, but he cannot seem disinteresting and disinterested.
Right.
I guess so. He makes sense to me in this movie in that I'm like, this man is insane, and Jeff Bridges can play an insane person.
He can.
So
and
he
he's
pulls
funny.
that off.
He lands
and he's
the
kind of
jokes.
funny.
Right. Because he's like
You-
delusional. He's
Yes.
like really
Right.
smart, really, 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 really book smart, and then kind of delusional and too horny, I guess. Which,
I believe him as a professor, though, and I don't believe Barbara as a professor. So I kind of think you need someone that you don't believe as a professor to be
I
in his
agree.
character.
Which, like, the Brosnan thing, because I also...
Yeah, so Pierce.
I think it's funny that they frame it as like, well, he's a man of hard numbers, and he feels like he's
Right,
created the
right.
mathematical
He's
equation
crunched it
for how
yes.
men and women can interact and cohabitate, right? But then in his attitude, he's much more like a Jordan Peterson type,
right.
where he's just like, and the roles we should be playing,
Yeah.
you know? And you're like, it's not this guy who's just like, well, I figured it out.
Who else could there be? All right,
Ed Harris.
Wow,
I've been thinking
Ed
Ed Harris. Ever
Harris.
since you said Pierce, I was like,
he
who
has.
else could it be?
been
He
thinking
does have Volcel energy.
He
Like,
does.
how often does Ed Harris fuck on screen? Off screen, I cannot comment.
On screen,
not that often.
not that often.
No.
Like usually he's
like
not. That's
His
not his
sexiest, I would say, the sexiest he's been is like Stepmom.
Yeah.
Oh, he's sexy in that.
How
He is
often
kinda
on
sad.
screen has Ed Harris almost drowned to death at the bottom of the ocean and texted, I love you, wife?
I think that was just the
It's
one.
just the one
I think
time.
it was just
Okay.
the once.
part. But like,
The
Yeah.
original breakup text.
like Ed
on screen.
Harris doesn't show up in a movie and you're like, uh-oh, like
Yeah.
here's a real romantic rival. You're like,
No.
oh no, this is a paid killer
Yeah.
usually or something
Yeah.
like that.
And I think the thing about the guy not being Barbara's type, of course, Barbara is going to cast based on her own libido. But if you're actually thinking about what the movie demands, part of it is that they don't meet organically. He has to be like attractive enough that she's intrigued, but also it's not like they found each other in any normal way. It all happens backwards. So part of it has to be like she comes to fall for him versus
So it should be against type.
It should be a little against type.
I agree.
But you're right. It's like he should either. The movie doesn't know whether he's like too hot to be like he's too smart to be hot or too hot to be not. Like the movie isn't clear what he is good at and what he is bad at or something.
And the movie isn't clear in a way that a movie made now would be, where if their agreement is that they don't fuck while they're married, they would also discuss how they fuck extramaritally.
Right.
So it's like,
we would just
this
be in an
type of
open
guy
relationship.
is fucking someone else all the time,
Right.
and we don't get a sense of that at all.
Right. Because he can't fuck without losing his mind. And that's why they put that in there, because if they were an open relationship or whatever it was, he would be losing his mind elsewhere. And that would be against what the whole point of this is.
Rooting for that.
Is he celibate?
I wanted them to be in Act 3, like, let's fuck other people.
Yeah.
Remain in our sort of like, non-sex
Barbara
marriage.
would never. She would.
No,
She does not
but
understand.
for 96, that would be, you'd be like,
No.
this is crazy. This is a Hollywood movie.
But for 96, does this movie think that this character is Ross Geller? Is that who they think they're putting on screen, right? Where it's like he sometimes, somehow, accidentally stumbles into relationships with mega babes.
Right.
But this guy is like
paleontologist style.
a total social incompetent who's like so caught up in his own shit and his studies and all of that. But like, yeah, when you get to the scene where he's like, look, my students hate me. I need to learn how to like grab their
don't.
attention.
They don't
hate you. They're all horny for you.
And I had never even considered that he wasn't a good teacher because
No.
I'm watching him rapt and I hate math.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
And it looks like the
he's so
class
good
is like
at teaching math.
vaguely engaged.
Yeah.
Because when he has that conversation with her, like, how do you do it? It's like the only difference is that she's breaking the fire code by having that many people in her auditorium.
Well,
And
one
they're
guy yawns.
stomping.
One guy yawns. Remember when he yawns? And that's when he said, you guys
Okay.
see the game last night? And then, oh, God.
They love it.
Oh, they learned math. All of a sudden, they learned math.
Could a fastball, sinking fastball really sink? And he's like,
When he's flipping through the
I'll ask my
sexy
wife.
ladies or the not sexy ladies while they're taking a test, I was like, save it for the lounge or something. Why
Yeah,
is he
that's
doing
so
this?
weird.
Like just right
That
on
was
the
so
table.
weird.
Right on the table.
There's the scene in Last Picture Show, which he's so fucking good in, obviously. His like first real movie, where he and Sybil Shepherd sleep together for the first time, and they walk out of the motel, and all their friends are parked in the parking lot applauding them, and he's doing his little like strut, and she hits him, and she just goes like, "Oh, stop it! You weren't good anyway."
Yeah, that part.
And he
rocks.
looks oblivious, and
Yeah.
I'm like, this movie at the beginning tries to set him up as the mid-40s version of that same guy, who's just like, I don't know, I just kind of keep.
I don't know how I
Oh,
got
he's
here.
definitely not good in bed. Like this guy is
But
not.
she says he is.
No.
She says
Elle
the only-
McPherson, but
Elle
maybe
says-
she has no idea.
She says the only two things we ever had in common were sex and that we both idolize me.
which is a funny line.
It
That's a
is.
good line.
She looks great. I mean, like,
This is
shout
her
out to Elle.
2-year
It's a funny
run
little
of being
scene.
in movies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really.
she's in
It's true.
Sirens, Batman and Robin,
Yes.
Fedge.
Then she pops back
The
into
Edge.
Love Actually for
Oh
one
my God,
scene.
right.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
One
She was
quick
on
little-
Friends
Yep.
Yeah, she had a little run.
for a couple.
Whose girlfriend does she play? Joey's, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Uh-huh.
I know. Wasn't she Ross's girlfriend?
Was she? Was
I
that
can't
another
remember.
example of Ross getting babes?
Should this have been
Oh,
Schwimmer?
She's Joey's girl roommate,
Okay.
and then they hook up. Yes.
Yeah, you can't hook up with your girl roommate.
Right.
You learned that
Remember,
on Friends.
Joey needs a roommate, and he gets a girl roommate, and
Yeah,
it's
and it's
Elle
illegal.
McPherson.
supermodel.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Let's talk about the plot a little more directly.
Mm.
Okay, Rose Morgan, English professor at Columbia University. Yeah, she's like Cheap Trick at Budokan anytime
Her
she talks
first-
about fucking King Arthur
I
or
will.
whatever.
I need to recreate her first fit where she's teaching, where she's wearing like black beret hat thing,
Uh-huh.
suspenders, maybe
It's so
black.
cute.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
like wearing it. High black.
By the way,
pants.
the outfit you have right on is perfect.
Phenomenal.
so much.
guys.
Thank you so much. I just got this
It's
sweater.
great.
Yeah, I mean, I loved her look. I think she's so confident too. Like
Yes.
that's where she's like sexiest. Even
Yeah,
though
when she's
schlubby
supposed
hair.
to be dowdy.
Well, they're like, oh, her hair, it's brown,
Yeah.
bangs, awful,
like
no makeup, I guess.
like
How is she schlubby? I don't even know.
Yeah.
She's not.
she's got glasses. I don't know. Her hair is.
They
She wears
dress her like
glasses
Yentl.
2 times.
Yeah.
I'm
I
grabbing
was
for
kind
something.
of astounded that the movie didn't even commit to have her
No.
wear glasses until the final act.
And also, Bobby, you pointed this out. Like, we knew what she looked like at her best at this point. So
Yes.
I knew what Barbra Streisand
Yes.
looked like as a sexy woman. So I guess I
The
knew that
sexy reveal is really funny.
it's really funny, but I've seen that woman before. That's not like a zhuzhed up woman. That's just
No.
what Barbara looks like normally. And her
No, I think
But
the one scene where they kind of get it right is the scene where she has Bacall. She reluctantly lets her make her over for the first Bridges date, and she shows up post cab ride.
with the piece
Funny.
of hair.
right. The failed version of the glow up
Yes.
works visually, and the
Mhm.
rest of the movie, you're like, she looks like Barbara.
But the
Yeah.
thing is,
Mhm.
even in the failed version of the glow up, once she takes the weird hair out of her hair,
Sure.
the extra
Right.
hair that Bacall added, she basically looks great.
Right.
Like,
But sorry, what you did say is when you see her made over, you're like, oh, now I
Yeah,
see how
well,
schlubby
well,
she
that's
was
what's-
before.
right.
Because
That's the
now
funny-
she's sexy. I've never seen a sexier
She,
woman in my
you
life.
can see her body.
The
like, all
sexy
of a sudden.
reveal is hilarious because it comes right after the workout montage where you are so annoyed. You're like, I cannot believe the movie
She's
is
eating a
doing
carrot
it.
on a
I hate they're
treadmill.
She's
doing
eating.
it.
I hate that they're doing it, and then you see her, and it's like va 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 voom, like
Yeah.
this sexy lady's here, and I love her hair like this. You know,
Yes.
like,
Her hair looks
it's
amazing.
hysterical.
And they do
Yeah.
her makeup.
but it's also
and
the
show her boobs.
same body.
Yeah,
It is the
it's-
same exact
yes.
body.
Right, but
and
they
I think
hid it
that's
under
what's
all
so
that weird
satisfying.
Yentl clothing they gave her.
She's wearing less sweaters.
Yeah.
I guess.
And he's like, "What'd you do to your hair?" And she's like, "I lightened it or something."
Lightened it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's blonder,
Yeah,
maybe
it's slightly blonder. It's a little crimped.
Oh yeah, she has little curls.
Okay, so she
Great.
lives at the what looks like the Frick collection with
Yes.
her mom, Lauren Bacall.
With her mom, Lauren Bacall, who, when I was watching it, I was like, this is the long lost twin sister of Lauren Bacall in birth. It's like one
Wow.
became the rich Upper East Side,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, it's the
matriarch.
other
One
Bacall.
became like the kind of more, I don't know, middle class mother who's a little less confident, whatever.
There's the third Bacall who's sweeping the soundstage in Dogville.
Yeah. Inside all of us are
Bumping
3
into tape.
Bacalls.
At the armory,
Id,
just
ego,
like
and super ego.
It would be funny. And then there's the fourth Bacall, the real Bacall, who gets punched by Christopher in The Sopranos. Who punches her in The
Oh
Sopranos?
my god.
oh, is it Christopher at the hotel parking lot?
Right, it is,
Yes,
right?
It's Lauren Bacall. It's Christopher.
Remember
Oh,
that in
you're
like
right.
the late season Sopranos
Yeah.
where they were like, there's an episode where Lauren Bacall gets punched, and you're
Yeah.
like, The Sopranos, the one about the mobsters, not whatever you're talking
Christopher
about.
has darkness. That would not surprise me
Um,
towards the end.
so
And just to pause for a second.
Sure.
I think for any of our younger listeners, it is important to understand that this movie is like biggest cultural legacy is that it comes out, it's kind of savaged by critics, and everyone's like, but here's Lauren Bacall's Oscar.
Mhm.
And she has this runway to like, we're all going to give her the Lifetime Achievement Award Oscar.
Yes.
She's going to get a standing ovation. It's going to be emotional. It's her first nomination. Here she is, Grand Dame of Old Hollywood. And she wins every precursor and then loses the Oscar, and this movie's forgotten.
And she kind of deserved the Oscar.
I disagree.
Who
That
gets
one
it
scene.
instead?
So
Juliette
Juliette
Binoche
Binoche wins for The English Patient, which is an excellent
The
performance
narrative
from
that
one of our
year
great actors.
was Juliette Binoche should win, and what a shame she's going to lose to
Right.
Lauren Bacall because of sentimentality. And then it was a case of like, holy shit, the person we all secretly wanted to win won,
Okay.
and Lauren Bacall dies without an Oscar.
Doesn't she get some sort of like,
she got a
she
Golden
gets some
Globe.
special honorary Oscar later, which don't
Yeah.
really count, but
So
She got a Lifetime Achievement Surfboard from the Teen Choice Awards.
so Bacall won.
She got a Golden Blimp.
Bacall won the Globe.
Uh-huh. And won SAG.
Yeah, she won most of the precursors. Obviously, she didn't. I don't think she won like a lot of critics awards.
I saw at least 1 or 2 she won. She lost the Satellite Award for Best Supporting Actress in a Comedy. And I was like, the Satellite, who gives a shit? And also split into 15 categories. What could have beaten her? And I thought it was interesting that this was the same year
Debbie Reynolds and
in Mother,
oh,
Yeah.
who then doesn't even get nominated, but was the same kind of narrative.
Right, like similar
Well,
situation.
Lauren's
It's
so
very
much-
similar types.
I love Juliette Binoche, the actor. She's great. I love her.
Yes.
The actor.
She's one of the best.
And she is good in The English Patient.
yeah.
That is, but that is not even one of her 10 best
No.
performances.
But how
And
many of
now
those
I'm-
performances have come after that one?
many. I mean,
Right.
although she'd already done, 3 Colors
is rare
I'm
that-
kind of thinking
She'd
about
done some
what
good
is the
Lovers on
butterfly effect
Bridge,
here.
yeah.
It's like, oh, she would have won an Oscar eventually. It's like, but what would her
I'm
career
not
have
sure
done
that
had
she
she not won
right,
the Oscar?
right, right. Totally right.
Because
It
she
is
only
also
gets
rare that somebody
one.
is nominated in their like back half for a lifetime achievement situation where they actually put in a good performance in a movie that is otherwise not as good. Like English Patient's a better
Yes.
movie than Mirror Has Two Faces.
Yes.
So, but somehow Lauren Bacall turns out this kind of incredible thing.
Bacall's kind of awesome in this movie.
Yeah,
I don't disagree.
she gives this movie
Price of admission.
something
Absolutely.
it really would not have without her.
I thought the first time I'll be like, oh yeah, Bacall's fine. She comes in and she says like, I was married to Humphrey Bogart. And everyone's like, oh, she should win an Oscar. Like
No, she's like really
and
important.
it's like she makes sense as a Upper East Side Jewish mom. Like, and I'm like, I don't know that I would have thought Bacall would make sense for that.
We know
She's the
the thing-
ground. She
Betty.
grounds the movie. Like she's the realest, I think,
Right.
warmest part of this movie.
We all know the thing that Barbara did on set, right?
Well, Babs
yeah,
is
we read
never
that.
going to let you forget that she pulled that out of her.
She tricked her.
She's a good
She tricked
actress,
her.
but
She tricked
I
her.
pulled her
she
that out of
filmed the
her.
rehearsals.
Yep.
Because Bacall wouldn't get that vulnerable, and she'd go, "Okay, let's just."
Let's just chat, me and you. Let's just chat.
Yeah.
Tell me about
Obvious-
Humphrey.
There's the one close up.
Yeah, it's fucking phenomenal.
amazing.
It gives you
Astonishing.
goosebumps.
It's
I-
amazing.
It does.
I loved. I watched it, but I
was
watched it again
wonderful.
before reading the chapter.
Mhm.
And I did pick up on the toothpick scene because I was like, it's kind of weird that Lauren Bacall's just casually using a toothpick in this scene.
No.
And in the
Babs
chapter,
said,
Babs
"Keep
is
it,
like, keep
keep
the
it."
toothpick.
Yeah.
Don't take the toothpick out of your mouth.
Obviously, Jenna Rollins apparently was the first choice and was busy, I think, doing Unhook the Stars.
Sure,
And so
which
couldn't
was
do
sort
it.
of
Her son's
Oscar
movie.
play.
Yeah.
But she got a SAG nomination for that.
Um,
Is it insane to say that I think Jenna would have won if she'd gotten this part?
I think it's insane, yeah.
Okay,
Because this movie was despised.
that's true.
So I think that's the only reason Bacall's in there is just the guilt of like, we never even nominated her. Like,
Right.
what is the matter with us?
Yeah,
Like, she has like 2 Tonys.
yeah.
Yeah, she's a living legend. And she was married to Humphrey Bogart. She
I'm
says
no,
it in
I'm
the
aware.
movie.
I've heard about
She
it.
doesn't say it.
The hate for this movie is just so because I know that we're like not even done talking about the plot, but like, yeah, it's crazy and it's insane, but it's such a nice movie to just spend time
Yes,
with.
It is,
All of its,
yeah.
all of its
You like
weird
listening
parts
to
make
him.
a great whole. That's what I'm.
It's
That's
just
as,
so
as we're
the end is
talking.
silly.
It's so out of place in the mid-90s.
Like
I
we're
think that's-
picking it
it's just
apart,
coming at
but
the
when
wrong
you watch
time.
it, you're like, this rules.
But
Yeah,
it is astonishing to read the reviews. We cannot overstate.
Yeah, people are
it
not
was-
happy.
They attacked this like it was Quantumania.
I think
It
it's
truly
because it's Barbara. It's because it's Barbara.
It is.
Yeah.
No, but in much the same way that like Quantumania or Eternals, it's like we've been
Quantumania.
living under this fucking Marvel
Right,
regime
enough.
for 30
It's time.
movies.
Yeah.
The
Now
knives
it's
are
ready.
out.
It was
Yeah.
like everyone who had any problem against Barbra Streisand at any point in her 30-year dominance up until that point was
Right.
like open season.
They
boys.
finally said we sat through Yentl, we did all
Yes.
this stuff, and now you've made a movie that we can say we're saying it's bad.
Right.
It's bad.
Yes.
So Lauren Bacall, Mimi Rogers also we should shout out. Streisand says she wanted a tall, attractive woman as a contrast to her character.
Who had once been married to Tom
To Tom
Cruise.
Cruise. I can't. I wish I could unknow
I'm
that.
sorry, that's
Mimi
like the
looking
only thing
great?
I know about Mimi
Yes.
Rogers.
Mimi
She's
Rogers
babe.
and Lauren Bacall share the American women who I always think are secretly British
But
energy.
in fact, both are secretly Jewish.
Right.
Now, of course, Mimi Rogers later was a Scientologist, but she has a Jewish
Well,
parent.
you know,
Yes.
being married to Tom Cruise
And
doesn't come
Mimi's
without
British
its
and Austin Powers.
effects.
Well, I think
Well,
that's
maybe
why.
that's part of it. Right.
But
A
they
movie you've
also-
seen 1 billion times.
1 billion
Yes.
times. But I think they also have, I mean, Lauren Bacall is part of the old Hollywood system thing, but it's like speaking English with a very pronounced sort of like transatlantic,
yeah.
mid-Atlantic. Yeah.
Dudley Moore was actually the first choice for
Correct.
the George Siegel role.
Perfect.
That sounds nice, but he was ill,
Oh,
I
It's like
guess.
3 scenes. Fun to see him though.
Passes away pretty shortly after
Yeah.
this.
But Siegel, right? He's just bouncing
Siegel's
in
so
from the
good in
Just
this.
Shoot Me set or
He's
whatever.
so good
Yeah.
in this.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's great. He was great on Just Shoot Me. I think
Yeah.
he doesn't get his roses enough
Because
for
also
Just
I
Shoot
think
Me.
We
Barbara's-
just lost
It's
him.
fun.
I
Did we
think
just
Barbara's
lose
trying
him?
to make a
Damn,
point.
He must have been fucking old.
Yeah, he was.
Old in
He
the
was on the
90s.
Goldbergs until the fucking end.
Oh my God.
God, yeah, wow.
I
Okay.
think Barbara's trying to make a point about a little bit like guys who are not as attractive also can just land any girl or whatever.
Absolutely.
And I think with Siegel, though I do think he's attractive, she makes that point.
George Siegel
Really
was
well.
a romantic leading man
Hey,
in the
young
70s,
Siegel.
as
Right.
were-
Cute.
Right.
as was her ex-husband, Elliot Gould.
Right.
And
yes.
neither of them
Yes.
got the same kind of cocked eyebrow that she did,
Right.
presenting herself as a romantic lead.
And she, I think,
It's true.
is very obsessed
Right.
with that fact. And
Totally.
she wants to make it, and she makes it without having to really make
Yeah.
She
Like,
makes it.
In the 1970s, those two guys, unconventional, hyper Jewish, became leading men and sex symbols.
For a bit.
At the same time that the class of actors who were referred to as looking like your butcher, of like De Niro and Pacino, you know, Hoffman falls into the
He's in
Seagull
both.
gold category.
Yeah.
Gold category. Yeah. But it's just like, right, they never stop litigating Barbara's thing.
Yeah.
In a way that these guys, it's like, whoa, what can we say? They got the Riz.
But
We can't fight this.
Streisand is also the thing where she's like, they never fucking got off my back. And I'm like, you're right. But then also I'm like, but you have had unparalleled success for 60 years, Barbara. You're
and
doing
she bagged
great.
hot guys the entire
Both-
time.
Yeah,
She did.
Both sides
As
are
Howard,
correct.
as
She
Howard
did.
would love her, was reminding her, she's
But I-
always dating hot
But
guys.
yes. Bobby, go on.
Well, that's
Sorry.
I'm repeating something I said earlier, but I think that's that turn in that scene with Lauren Bacall at the end. She's confident. She reveals herself as confident. She's like,
right.
fuck this, I am beautiful and I always have been.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
she doesn't play the woe is me version of that character throughout the whole thing. And I think without that, the movie is a little bit worse.
She's obsessed with the critics, but she doesn't actually believe what they
No,
say. I
exactly,
think the thing about
exactly.
Barbara is that she knows what she's right, she knows that she's good, and she knows that
reads
she's
everything.
beautiful, but she does read it all and wants to remind you that they thought that she wasn't right or beautiful.
There's a reason Streisand effect is named after her.
Which she
Yes.
does talk about in the book, and it's hilarious because she has no freaking idea why it's funny or relevant. She goes, "It wasn't even." She just totally negates it. And it's like, no, you don't get it.
But it's
not for you
a
to
weird
say.
case of you read all those reviews and they're like, Barbara, why won't you fucking get over it? And it's like, you're doing the thing that makes this
Yeah.
in her head constantly. Like, both sides are right. Barbara, you are so successful that you still shouldn't be obsessed over this. But also, no one will stop talking about things through this prism
Exactly.
around her.
and like critics, shut the fuck up. It's funny that on their wedding night they watch Lawrence of Arabia.
Funny.
Hilarious.
That is
Because
funny.
it's long.
And she's the only and Jeff Bridges falls asleep and she
Yes.
watches the whole thing.
She wants
That's
the
funny.
credits are
Wouldn't it be
rolling.
2 cassettes?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you see it in the back.
So-
It's two
It's a
cassettes.
thing.
Okay,
It's
because
a-
so
it's a
someone had
hefty
to get up and change the cassette.
Yeah, she did it.
Yeah,
You know how
Bridges
you
is
know Barbara's a
snoozing.
real filmmaker
Love
too?
that.
That she cuts to them watching the credits for the restoration.
Yeah,
yeah,
and
yeah,
AV
yeah,
Coach
yeah,
is
yeah.
getting a special
Yes.
thanks or something.
Editorial consultant.
Yep.
Yes.
Robert
I'm
A.
sure-
Harris supervising.
That
The music's
those cassettes
going?
were from her own collection.
Yes.
Like those are it's so her.
Do you know who would have given Lauren Bacall the Oscar had she won?
Oh,
Kevin Spacey.
okay.
I'm watching the clip
Oh
right
boy.
now.
Wow.
So maybe she dodged a bullet.
Maybe she
Oh,
does.
boy.
The bullet.
He's there in a black tux.
Oh boy.
I'm watching it just to
He did
see what's
impressions of all
Bacall's
5
reaction.
nominees.
And Babs goes to the Oscars and she meets Jim.
Does
Oh,
she meet Jim at
did
this
she?
ceremony?
Jim
Oh,
Brolin.
that's the end
The
of the
end
chapter.
of the chapter,
She
she
goes.
goes, I never go to the Oscars. It's such a to-do, but you know what? I said I'm gonna go
For Lauren.
Lauren
Lauren.
loses.
For Betty.
for Betty.
Marvin loses.
And Betty loses. Marvin, her beloved Marvin loses.
And she's pissed.
Lauren is a class act.
She's
by the
so
way.
pissed.
She's so pissed. Why did I
clapping.
go?
She's
But
smiling.
She
then
meets
at the end of the
James.
night, she meets James.
She meets Big
Jim.
Jim.
It becomes
It's Jim.
It becomes a rom com at the like it's
She walks
that
up to him and
chapter
says,
is perfect.
"Your son's going to be Thanos." She says it to him.
My friend of the podcast,
so gonna be
Richard
Thanos.
Lawson.
I'm not laughing because I'm processing what you just
Yeah,
said.
I also heard that slow.
Binoche, who obviously was dressed like the Dark Lord Dracula, if you remember, she's
Yes.
got this amazing
Oh, yeah.
red coat with a huge collar. She is genuinely surprised. Like when her name gets read,
That's
you can
nice.
tell
Believe it.
she's
Yeah.
like,
That's
I
nice.
can't believe
She didn't
this.
It's a
Yeah.
Cotillard moment where you're just
It's a bit
like,
of a
this isn't
Cotillard
supposed to
moment.
happen.
Nice.
Yeah. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say
wanna
the memoir. It was speaking of James Brolin.
Jim.
I know friend of the podcast, Richard Lawson, was like, it's funny that Barbra Streisand has had interactions with so many interactions with Diane Lane.
Mhm.
And then I just pulled out the Kindle and then Control F Diane Lane. 0 results.
Wow.
Oh,
What?
damn.
0 results. No mentions of Diane in the book, which is means nothing, but it also means everything.
I will say, now that you've invoked the great Richard Lawson, I kept thinking during this movie, he has quoted this on our show, but you and he having the game of trying to come up with fake James L. Brooks lines.
Oh yeah.
And the
Invoked
best one
this
you ever
so
had.
many times.
But this movie is like such a good. Every line feels like
Kind
it
of a
could be.
person who's a
You're the
kind
kind
of
of
a
a person who's a kind of a person.
Yes, you're the kind of a person who's the kind of a person.
Well,
I
I just
mean-
love the little like, God, like eating a salad because you like the salad dressing more. Like that is such a mixture of a Barbara and also
And a
kind
Nora
of a
Ephron.
Jewishy.
And a Nora
Yeah.
Ephron.
Yeah, very classic.
But we never see her spooning it in her mouth. I wanted to see her actually.
and-
like,
I want her to do full like
And you
Melissa
know-
McCarthy
and the most
Hidden
Nora
Valley
shit
Ranch.
ever. The most Nora shit
The perfect
ever
bite.
is the perfect bite mixed with loving someone because they know your intricacies and how fucking annoying you are when you go out to dinner and, oh, no pepper for her. She wants extra dressing. That's the most Nora rom-com shit ever.
Well, I mean, in a way, You've Got Mail is like an evolved version of this.
Yes.
Like a better version of this because it's the idea
They're
of
platonic for a long time.
They meet as friends
they're
first.
meeting as friends. There's no sex at all. It's a meeting of the minds because they just chat.
Yeah.
They just chat online.
Yeah.
Like You've Got Mail does
it's a
improve
smarter
on
way
this.
to do it.
But you know what the perfect bite is? Lindsay, you'll love this.
What? What's the
Think about
perfect
it.
bite?
Whenever Jeff Bridges is sort of like, I miss the
Jim
perfect
Bridges.
bite. I miss the perfect bite or whatever at the end.
Yeah.
Do you know what the perfect bite is?
No?
It's Beauty and Brains.
Oh, you're
The perfect
so
bite
right.
is you've got to have
Beauty
a little bit
and
of everything
Brains.
in there.
Who's
It's
the
like
original Beauty
you
and
can't
Brains?
just be sexy. He doesn't just want dressing.
Oh,
He wants dressing.
original
Beauty and
Ratio.
Brains.
He wants iceberg.
Yes.
He
It's the
wants
salad.
and
Yeah.
to the hooligans the four of them that are listening to this, the Beauty and Brains is Brad Pitt's not girlfriend, who he actually never dated,
Nari
Neri
Oxman.
Oxman, who was a professor
Mm.
who people thought he dated. They never dated, but she was Beauty and
They
Brains.
couldn't believe that he
And the
dated
Daily
Beauty
Mail.
and Brains.
An MIT professor.
Yeah, they
Yes.
said Beauty and Brains.
Everything
Yeah.
to know about Brad
Yeah.
Pitt's
But that-
friend.
but that
Like,
perfect
that's what the
bite-
articles have
Beauty
to
and
say.
Brains.
The
Yeah.
perfect bite is the perfect example of like
true.
it's an aspirational
We're all seeking the
rom-com
perfect
moment
bite.
that people are going to remember and love, and it just doesn't quite work.
Okay, so I'm going to put something out
Here we
because
go.
I didn't realize that
A fire?
She met Big Jim. Yeah, excuse me.
Big
my
Jim at the
extinguisher.
Oscars.
Jim
I
at the
didn't.
Oscars.
The chapter
for-
after the chapter about
She
this
was
movie
sad.
is
She was
about Jim.
pissed.
for this movie,
met
right?
Jim.
And then she never directs another film, and she only acts in 3 more
Maybe it
movies
sounds like
after
she
this.
got a life. I'm kidding.
Well, I've been saying all of her films.
It's a bad message.
Certainly, her career as a singer, an interpreter of the Great Romantic Songbook, right?
Mhm.
And then most of her persona and her movies, especially her biggest films, and then really drilling down into when she starts directing her
Yeah.
own films, and we're lumping Star is Born into this, is like she is really obsessed with love and whether this is a solvable thing,
Yeah.
right? She's trying to do the Jeff Bridges professor calculations in her head, but in emotional terms. She's doing like what actually her character is doing. It's like, is the fantasy version of it unrealistic, but do we need to desire for something that is a little bit unrealistic? Where is the middle? She sleeps with many great men. She has great love affairs, but there is some like unfulfilled, unresolved part of her. She finally meets Big Jim, who's like the perfect Streisand guy, and then she's like, well, I can chill out.
I'm done.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But
I
I,
mean,
also
she
think
did chill out.
she really cannot do multiple things at once. I
No.
think her energy has to be, she's such a perfectionist. She's everything has to be perfect, and the musha or whatever is that I just don't think she can like be in successful relationship and be successful director and do music. She's not an everyman.
Her
She's
and Beatty are very similar. And Beatty always talks about when people are like, why won't you make another movie? He's like, making a movie for me is like vomiting,
yeah.
where it's this thing in my system for so long and I really don't want it to come out. And once it's out, it feels better. But like the scariest part is going to the toilet or whatever. I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, but he does use vomit as the metaphor. And it does feel like the same thing with Barbara, where
Yeah.
she's like, if I'm going to do this, it's going to like take over my entire body.
10 years to write a book. You know,
Deplete everything from my system. I don't
It's a
commit to
long book.
anything lightly.
fair.
If she'd taken 10 years to write like
was a
a
Kindle single?
45-page book, right, then I'd be like, come on, bro, it's a long book.
But what's there in? She took all this time, all these years to make these other movies. She finally makes a movie in a normal time it takes to make a movie, and it's hated.
Hate it.
So
She doesn't go into
she's
the
looking
criticism in
back
that
and she's
chapter.
saying,
Yeah.
you know,
Is it worth
Was it
so
worth
I
it?
guess I
Yeah.
need to be either making Yentl every time
Right.
or never again because I'm not going to deal with not going to make this movie again. I
And it's
guess
not a
everyone
flop.
hated it.
It was like relatively
It did okay.
successful, right? For like a
It made its
for a
budget
movie
back.
for moms.
But she never
yeah.
says they said it was bad and it was
No,
great
she never
because
goes
she
into it.
doesn't.
No.
'cause she doesn't.
Well, it reminded me of, I told Lindsay this before y'all got here. It reminded me of this very funny Zane Lowe interview she did a couple years ago when she released one of her silly albums where it's like, I'm going to
Not
do duets
silly.
with Dina Menzel and Daisy Ridley.
Yeah,
Like, it's like
she
the craziest
did.
shit in the world.
Oh man, you're right.
And she releases this album. She
With
does an
Anne
hour
Hathaway
long.
and
Anne
Daisy
Hathaway.
Ridley.
She
She
releases
did an album with Daisy Ridley?
Well, not the
among
whole
others.
album, but
it wasn't the whole album. Oh heaven!
they sang "Let's
no.
Go to the Ballet"
Yeah.
with
Really?
both Anne and Daisy. Yeah.
Craziest album
Crazy.
possible. So
Kooky
she's talking to
crazy.
Zane Lowe about it for an hour.
Uh-huh.
And in this interview, I watched the whole thing. I think I watched it at like 1.5x. I was like, I got to find her funniest things. And she tells
Classic.
this story. I don't remember how the anecdote
Encore, movie
is-
partners sing
there you
Broadway.
go.
Yes, obviously.
I don't remember how the anecdote comes comes about, but she's like, okay, take this for example. She went to an auction. She sees a painting that she wants. She bids for the painting. She loses. You're assuming it's a very expensive painting, beautiful painting. And her solution to this problem, because she wanted the painting, she didn't win it. She says, well, I have to learn how to paint so I can paint this painting. She tells Yentl the story. She learns how to paint, gets good at it, and then she goes, well, I don't have to paint anymore. Like, I think that it's like,
she perfects it. And then
she's
she
like,
says,
and
gets it
she's
out of-
her own
once it's-
judge. She's
once
like,
it's
I've
the vomit.
decided.
Yes.
It's the vomit
Yes.
metaphor.
Yes.
It's once it's out of her system, it's out of her system. And I believe it. I feel like there's a version of a person who says that and doesn't and
Agreed.
wants it to be true. But
Yes.
for Barbra, it seems true.
And Lindsay, I am similarly fixated on the lazy thing that you keep on
She's
bringing
lazy.
up. And I've been bringing up
she said it.
the other episodes, and people are like, that's not true. And she's like,
She has said it.
there's 1 in 10 on my scale. There's nothing in between. I
Right.
can
When
sit on my
she's
couch,
working, she
That's
works really hard.
or I can
Right.
become entirely obsessive.
Yeah.
And to think
You
about
heard her on Howard. When she
Yes.
needs to make money, she goes and does a concert. When she makes the money from the concert, she says, I'll be at home in Malibu in my perfect house
Right.
with the
She's
wall
not
in the
Jay
basement.
Leno.
She's
Yes.
not
Where you're
a
like, why are you
workaholic.
touring? And he's
Right.
like covered in burns. And he's like,
And I
"She's,
think
you
we're
know."
not
She's a
used
perfectionist,
to
but
we are
she's
not
not
used
a
to celebrities
workaholic.
like that.
No.
Yeah, I
celebrities
agree.
celebrities are like fetishizing
I think
being
it's-
overworked, and
Yes.
she refuses.
she's anti-mogul culture.
It's hard for her to imagine. It's hard to imagine that somebody who's such a perfectionist is not a workaholic, but she
Yes.
is not.
no.
Yeah.
When she's working, it has to be really good. But when she's not working, she's not rushing to get back to the office. What's
She's
the
saying
office?
it's not that she's lazy. She's saying I'd rather be lazy.
Yes.
Kind of, yeah.
She
But Daniel
loves
Day-Lewis
her
is
and
the same
Jim
way.
are in
Yeah.
bed watching a movie. Like, this is her life. She wants to
Yes.
live her life.
Paul
Like,
Thomas Anderson.
Sandra
They're
Bullock
watching
too, kind of.
Josh in
I'm thinking about
Avengers
that.
Endgame. They're like, he's doing a good job.
Yeah. She thought Thanos might have been right.
There's something behind the eyes here.
Yeah.
Just like when actors talk about like I'd rather be home, it
Yeah.
seems very rare, and I'm always charmed by it.
Okay. Is there anything about the plot like we need
Yeah.
to, okay. So like,
Mimi Rogers is married to Pierce Brosnan. Pierce Brosnan is someone that Barbara's character has always been in love with.
she met him
Introduced
first.
them.
Right. She met him first, introduced him to Mimi, and
Mimi's like
regrets it.
third marriage or something.
Right.
Should we put that out
Mimi
there?
seems to be a serial.
There's some joke with Brenda
yes.
Vaccaro about why do you introduce the two of them. I didn't think she was already married. I didn't
Right.
think she was a threat or whatever. Right.
Mimi kind of low key very funny in this. Like,
I mean, yeah,
just-
you and I are on the same page. We're always
she's great.
in the bag for me.
Yeah.
Rogers. Yeah.
Pierce not getting a ton to do.
Mm-mm.
No.
It's kind of can of hairspray in this movie.
Yeah. He's
And
got
the
the
idea
look.
is that he's sort of like obsessed with Mimi Rogers too. That he's like, "Oh, sweetie, what can I do?" And she's like, "I'm already."
Which is
bored
the
of
least
you."
attractive thing.
Yeah, he doesn't quite work for that.
No, she always wants the thing she can't have.
Mhm.
Right.
And the second she has it, I mean, she has that scene where she complains about, like, he's there asking what I want for dinner. Like, it's the worst thing in the
Right.
world. But you're introduced to Mimi Rogers for the first time at the wedding, where they're both criticizing Bacall for you're the bride's mother, not the opening act, right?
Some
Mm.
good
They're
stuff.
talking all about appearances and Barbara sort of being
Sure.
the ugly duckling
And they
of the
need to
trio.
be always a bridesmaid, never a bride. You need to have that in there.
That
So they,
Babs
they
is in this
introduce
terrible
her.
The ugly dress.
They
Yeah,
physically
Yeah.
introduce her as a bridesmaid and not a bride.
But Rogers spends 95% of the wedding with the masseuse.
Yep.
Like, she's already at the ceremony over Pierce.
Right.
Absolutely.
She sees Jeff Bridges, who has post Elle Macpherson and a very bizarre phone sex scene.
Yes, Jeff Bridges has written the most boring book in the universe. It took him
Yes.
10 years, much like Barbara.
Of course.
Number
of
theory.
course.
Right. He at one point when he tries to describe it, I mean, I actually zoned out. Like it's
Yeah.
something to do with number.
But
But of course,
pairs.
somehow Barbara knows
Something
all
about
the math
prime.
in
She
the
gets
book or
it.
something.
Right.
She,
She
knows
gets
math.
it.
None of his students get it, but Barbara gets it.
Yeah, and Barbara doesn't. She's not a math teacher. She just understands the
she's
math.
smart.
Yeah.
He is actually, to me, a realistic depiction of a math professor teaching
Yes.
undergraduates who, like, usually they don't fucking turn around because they're like, this is some bullshit I have
That
to do.
that part
Yeah.
is very well observed.
right. Like him
Um,
just like writing formulas on the blackboard and being like,
Right.
anyway,
But
there you go.
he's furious after having great sex with Elle Macpherson, immediately calls up a phone sex operator who's doing cat's cradle.
That's a funny
So
yes.
funny.
She's funny. That
Like,
lady
she
is
just
Drinking a
funny.
purchased
Diet
a
Pepsi,
clutch
which
full.
felt
funny.
She's like, don't you want to
Yeah.
hear about my tits? And he's like, no, come on. Like that, you know.
Right.
He's
And
good. He's good in that scene.
He's complaining
he's
about how could anyone find love in a culture that sells us sex, and she says, "Why don't you make your own ad?"
And
So-
he does.
So he does. In a way that's very like the movie skips over. He has that realization, and then the next thing we see is him looking at the resumes in class,
In class.
and then him
Yeah.
calling Mimi Rogers, who's with the masseuse,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
who has planted
she sends in Barbra
Streisand.
Yes.
Right. They haven't
Barbara's
met.
name is
Barbra Streisand.
They
Rose.
do that very efficiently.
Yeah, it happens very fast. I'm
It's
kind of
fast.
forgetting when it happened because it just happens
It's
like in a matter
early.
of 5 minutes.
And also the movie, it's one of those things that the movie is very. It never allows itself to be about people like tricking or being dishonest and
Which I
let
like.
that hang
No,
over.
yeah, no one
so
cares.
like everyone's
Yeah.
instantly honest about everything, which avoids so many kind of annoying
Right, because
cliches.
another movie might be like the reveal of her having placed the thing for her
You
causes
placed-
such a thing,
I
and it
thought
would have
we
been
met
this built up.
organically.
Yeah,
Right.
no,
We
it doesn't
didn't need
matter.
it.
Doesn't
He
matter.
tells her, and she's like, "Yeah, I don't care."
Yeah.
The thing that is smart and well observed about this movie, it's not about people lying to each other. It's
Yeah.
about people lying to themselves.
Mhm.
Which so many rom-coms are based on lies to each other that
Mhm.
get so annoying when they
You've
have
Got
to
Mail.
unravel.
You've Got Mail
Yeah.
has
You
that
Got
big
Mail
lie,
does it well.
right?
Yeah.
But that's what
It's the
this-
exception to the rule.
right?
It somehow does like indefensible lies so
Right,
heartwarmingly.
right.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know?
Now, here's, I think, the greatest offense of this movie. This movie is so incomprehensibly rude to the Austin Pendleton character.
Mm.
When this film is set up as, ugh, Barbara, undesirable, no man will
Oh,
even look
right.
at her.
Mhm.
And then basically her introduction is her canceling a date for the 800th
Yeah.
time.
Yes. He's the one she doesn't want to bear.
Just being
Barry.
like, this guy is so boring and unexciting.
Right.
I'd rather
Mhm.
watch a baseball game. He has his joke about like, I'm blacklisted from every restaurant in town because of all the reservations I canceled.
That's funny.
It's a good joke.
Mhm.
He's
But-
funny. When is he not funny?
But there's
That's
no
good.
reason to have this. If she's undesirable, then why is she even? She shouldn't have a guy
No.
even on the hook for her.
But it's her saying, I'm not sexually attracted to this guy.
right.
That's the
but
thing
I'm
about
settling
this
for
movie.
him or whatever.
Like it really does end with them saying, never mind, sex is important and so is physical attraction.
Right,
and
right,
these
right,
two
right.
people want to fuck
Right.
each
I
other.
want to
She
fuck
never
you.
wanted to fuck that
No.
guy,
But it's-
she was
right.
happy that he found someone
But
who wanted
then,
to fuck him.
well, then at the
you
end,
know?
when he finds his own girl who has to be, of course, as quote unquote ugly as he is,
Yeah.
or something.
Austin
and then-
Pendleton in a wig.
Yeah, of course.
Basically.
Yeah.
and
A
is-
Jack and Jill version of himself.
Is that Barbara's way of being like, well, everybody's got to find their equally ugly person?
Sure.
And
And
yes.
mine is Jeff
The
Bridges.
answer is yes.
Yeah.
But that's what this sucks. That sucks.
It sucks a little bit.
It sucks
it's a little sucky.
It sucks.
I sympathize with her not wanting to quote unquote settle. Not that Austin Pendleton is settling.
No.
Just did the more general concept
No.
of like, no, it should be someone I love, not someone who's around.
She was
This
not
character
attracted
also-
to him, and
Yes.
it's okay.
Yeah.
But she also talks generally, this character, not as if I don't want to settle for someone I'm not crazy about.
Mhm.
She talks as if no one is lining up to get my attention.
And you're like, what
Mhm.
about Barry?
Right.
You're Lauren Bacall. You're like, what about Barry?
right. And she's like, well, he's not a person.
Right. Right.
And then Lauren Bacall reveals that she settled in life.
Yes.
And despite like her beauty, she settled, and that's her biggest regret,
So-
settling. And so she
Mhm.
doesn't want to.
Bridges
Yes.
is a Volcel and Barry is an incel.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
God.
Anyway, so they do the ad. They go to dinner. She has
Bridges
the
is
hair.
just
in her
trying to
head.
save power.
He's so fucking crazy. They
my
have, and pretty, I think 2 minutes into their first date, Bridges is like, do you want to come to like a chamber music performance with me?
Yeah.
And she eats the salad dressing and
Because
says,
they're
sure.
immediately having great
And
conversation.
she's like,
Yeah.
I know about
Yeah.
prime numbers, and his, bow tie is
She's
spinning
like,
360.
Yeah.
Boom, you know
Right.
about prime numbers.
Right.
Oh my God.
And they go to the chamber music and they walk out of it, and
Mhm.
he's like, okay, here's my pitch. No sex, committed relationship, intellectual understanding.
This is
you know?
devastating. And what sucks is that he's like, I went to your lecture and you talked about this and it was great. I had to leave early. I missed the end.
Right. And she's like, I was talking about literary characters.
She was like, it's
right.
a book, you dumbass.
Right.
But also, this math guy, it's like, I mean, there's everything is wrong with their arrangement. That I don't want to say that there's anything right about their arrangement,
Mhm.
but like everything is so particular except we'll have sex sometimes. Like
Yeah,
they
he's
don't-
sort of like,
we
if you
could
give
have
me a
sex sometimes.
warning.
The crazy
Yeah.
thing is, if he was gay, then this kind of all makes sense in a weird way.
If this was a next best thing arrangement.
Yes,
Yeah.
an
Someone
object
could do
of
this in
my
the Gilded Age.
affection.
Oh, that's
a
what
couple
that
could do
movie
this in the
is.
Gilded
They're
Age.
both about the same
Right,
yes,
right, right.
exactly. I'm just,
That was a thing in late 90s rom-coms where it's like, what if you could just marry the gay guy? And
Yeah.
you figure it out. you
Yeah.
know. Object of my affection, next best
Mhm.
thing.
mhm.
Mirror has two faces. No, Jeff Bridges is straight.
Too boring to be gay.
But scared of
Too boring to
sex. He's too boring to be gay. They get close
Mhm.
and develop a true intimate relationship, emotionally intimate.
yeah, they
Mhm.
kiss only after he
Yes.
proposes to her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or no, when he proposes, she's like, I haven't even. And he's like, oh, whoa.
Right.
And
How
kisses
could I
her.
marry someone I haven't even,
And then she goes like this. But they have twin side by side
their
beds.
room is
Their room's hilarious.
They move in together.
The start-
Like her furniture in one corner that's clearly from whatever you call the Frick collection.
Yes,
like
yeah,
the-
Bacall.
I mean,
in the back.
later on, she like paints the room, but
Yeah.
the first shot of that room is like a hospital.
Yeah.
Like it's
It's
giving
like Craigslist.
hospital.
It's
Yes.
Craigslist room for
It's
rent.
so, and
yeah.
what do they each have, a double or single
I
bed?
think each have a double.
Oh
yeah.
God, like brutal. Tiny TV,
And her-
weird
And her drawers
Gucci lamps.
filled with snowballs because she's ugly.
Every
you know?
bulb is fluorescent.
Every bulb is fluorescent.
Yeah.
Makes you want to die. Oh yeah, her drawers filled with snowballs.
Mhm.
Oh my
Um,
God.
It's no. What were you gonna say, David?
I was just continuing the plot. So what?
Yeah.
No,
you
please
know.
continue.
Well, he's like, okay, so now I'm going to go on a book tour of Germany where
It's
my number
months long.
ideas
For
are
three,
catching
for
on.
3 months. They want me to come to Germany for 3 months.
So
People love my
long.
Wouldn't
numbers.
do that.
And can I do this? And she's like, oh, I mean, to me, I'm like, yeah, sure. We don't have sex anyway. I'll do this on the phone. But yeah, he's going to go off. And she's like, before you go,
Mhm.
maybe you could, fucking rail me all night. One time.
And he's like, I am going to go in the bathroom and faint.
Excuse me. First, what he does is spit out his coffee.
Yeah, wah wah wee wah all over the place.
The most
Fine.
Gary Marshallian moment of the film. You almost are surprised he doesn't have a dog whip its head around.
Meanwhile, he told her that if she wanted to do that,
Just with
she
Ling.
could ask for it, and he would do that.
And
with
she's
her.
like, is a day enough? If I tell you in the morning,
He
is that
didn't-
enough time?
He should have given her like a lease, like a landlord. It was like 14 days notice,
Right,
please.
right.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Send the request through the post,
Yes.
notarized. So they try to have sex, and in an incredibly upsetting scene, he
It's so-
basically has a
it's
panic attack,
the
and
most
she's really
demoralizing
upset.
thing I've
And
ever
it's
seen.
weirdly like,
It's
for as silly as it
it's
is,
emotionally
it's
very
heartbreaking.
hard.
It is a
Yes.
heartbreaking scene.
Oh, well,
Because
we were-
him then trying to
yes.
explain himself,
Horrible.
and she's crying, and it's like,
Because she cannot believe it. She really
Yeah.
cannot.
Because her sister was like, any guy, just like show up with your tits out. Like, it's fine. Like they'll do it. It's no problem. And then it's like, it's the worst thing.
And it's also kind of like, it's not, I mean, again, the screenwriter was like, I made a lot of mistakes, but like, it's never quite clear why he doesn't want to fuck her.
Right. That's what I'm
Like,
saying.
It doesn't really make any
I do-
sense.
Within the
He's
privacy
got-
of their own home. Like who like
It's like maybe there's not enough space on the bed, but like
There isn't.
smush them together.
well, they go in between. Did you
But
notice
this is
that?
They
where
should
I'm
have pushed it
saying,
together.
like, this
maybe a
film,
bungee cord or
It is
two,
absurd.
the
It is
film
absurd.
almost needs this guy's like mathematic scientific principles to go further into the modern day YouTuber. I've heard if you don't come for a year,
Yes.
you gain muscles.
Yes. Or
know,
he's
like, there has
or
to
there's
be
like
some-
if
Yeah,
he
yeah, yeah.
fucks, he like the superpower, he hulks or
It's a
something.
Seinfeld. It's a Seinfeld
Like,
episode.
right.
about
Because it's
that.
also
Yeah,
like
yeah.
he's not fucking anyone else, and he's relieved. I've been like,
Yes.
I've surrendered this pesky
You know,
libido.
He's like a kid who won't eat his broccoli. Now he has a complex about the broccoli. He
Yeah.
puts
And
it
then
in his
someone
mouth,
gave him
he's
all-
like gagging.
It's like you won't eat the
Acting as
broccoli
if
here.
we-
It's a bunch of bagel bites. Eat the bagel
Yeah.
bites. And he's like, I don't want the bagel bites either. Like it's like you
and we're
can't
acting
win
like
with
people
the kid.
don't fuck people they find unattractive,
Yes.
or like whatever. Like, come on.
He's
Like,
mentally ill.
He's,
I mean,
he's
that's what it is.
mentally ill.
strange.
Right.
But
He's
Lindsay,
mentally
you
ill.
calling out the thing of him leaving her seminar early, right? Where he was like,
He
I
missed
saw
the
you
end."
speaking. We agree.
You
Yeah.
said that thing about Puccini, and then I had to go.
Yeah.
Right. I
Right.
met this girl. She's
Yeah.
amazing. She also doesn't like emotions, right?
She also doesn't want to fuck. So that's it, right? So I'm going to marry her.
But it's so key that he's like fundamentally misunderstanding what she's putting out, which is she's just calling attention to the gulf in reality between how romance is depicted in media, in
Mhm.
art, and what it feels like in real life, which he interprets as this is her like striking blows against this false notion of romance that doesn't exist,
Yeah.
period.
Right.
He misinterprets her entire thesis, which is she's basically doing observational comedy on, and of course the
On
music
the
doesn't
guy and the
swell.
girl.
Yeah, he has
no
Yeah.
sense of
Say
humor.
that.
And he's like, this music is too manipulative. And she
Right.
loves the music.
Right,
that's
and she's
manipulative.
like, "You're right. This is
Oh,
morally."
he brings like a what does he bring to the opera? Like a little meter so they could watch the music. Like he's
Yes.
so lame.
But
He
the
is so
scene
lame.
where they're watching Brief Encounter and she's crying and
Right.
he's just like, "Wait, have you lied to me? You like this shit?"
Mhm.
And Brief Encounter is like one of the most somber, realistic
Right.
portrayals
Yes, this is not a Puccini movie.
of a
yes.
complicated romantic dynamic, and he seems offended.
And sexless.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Unrequited or unconsummated.
One of the best movies ever made.
A great film.
Yeah.
Brief Encounter.
It's funny
Two
that
great
like
movies, or two great David Lean movies are watched in this.
and there's not enough movies in this movie, I think. Like I
well,
think
if it was
they should
Nora,
watch
if it was
would be
Nora,
heavier.
well, it's like you think about the rom-coms of the early '90s that predated this that were popular. It's like, well, a couple of them. I'm thinking of Sleepless in Seattle specifically, obviously, but it's like there are so many self-referential things. Like there's so much stuff about the movies and the way romance is depicted on screen, and it's sort of like, why are you doing this kind of again and not improving it? It's,
right.
it's a
Sleepless
little
in Seattle's
irritating.
a better movie about how rom-coms have scrambled our brains.
Well,
And also a
bit.
better movie
Yes.
about two people who are completely out of their minds.
We're also-
Like,
yes, who are insane.
like
Let's complete the pattern here. What's the third movie in this trilogy?
What?
Another movie we've covered on this
What?
podcast. Don John.
Oh,
boy.
God.
You're
Well,
really
that's-
focused on the lack of
I can't do.
ejaculation.
Yeah,
right?
but also
Yes.
the same thing where he's like, this girl, she's obsessed with these fucking rom-coms.
You're
I
right.
just watch porn like a normal guy. I have my own theory.
I must admit, I've never seen Don John
Oh,
because
it's
it looks
Bobby,
so
it's
awful.
so
Robert.
good.
Why would I ever watch
Come
Don
on.
You shouldn't.
It's so good.
You should.
They're going to press you on this.
It's
but
so good.
You should.
It's so
It's
fun.
easily-
I trust
avoided.
David. I trust David.
It's so fun.
I mean, you can watch it just slack-jawed in horror. Like that's how I
Isn't
feel
Scarlett
about it.
Johansson just like New Jersey? Isn't that
Yes,
like what she is?
yeah.
Don
And
John
there's-
maybe should have gotten 2 separate Best Supporting Actress nominations. That's my take to get you to watch it.
It's so good.
I might just watch Crazy Heart again. Okay, how about that?
Oh, wow. Oh, God.
I hate this music.
Pour me another glass.
So he fails
Mhm.
to fuck her.
Mhm.
She's very upset,
Mhm.
obviously. He starts yelling about like female manipulation, and you're like, Jeff, chill out.
Get off of Reddit.
She goes back to see Lauren Bacall.
Mhm.
Bacall is like, all right, this movie's all over the place. I'm going to
let me just-
yes.
together for 2 minutes.
She's Tobey Maguire at the front of the
Yeah,
train.
right.
She
Right.
really doesn't.
And the real relationship is between mother and daughter. That's the whole movie.
And
It is
as Bobby has said, right, that is
It's
what
the
changes
scene of the
her
movie.
brain.
Yeah.
It's the
It's
scene of
the-
the
it's
movie.
the whole
It's
movie.
everything
And then
everything is
she
forgiven
Olivia
after that
Newton-Johns
scene.
herself and
Right.
turns into the hottest
With-
professor that ever did
yeah.
walk these streets.
But
yes.
there's the one close-up shot that we've already invoked where Barbara asks her, what was it like?
being beautiful.
Being
Yes.
Oh, God.
And you cut to this close-up, this intense close-up on Betty Bacall.
Long.
Betty Persky?
Yeah.
Betty.
And it makes sense that it's just, this was her rolling on a rehearsal.
And you watch like
Bacall just
60
processes
years
her
cross
life.
her eyes. Exactly.
It is
Yes.
completely metatextual.
Right.
It basically breaks the reality of
And
the
also,
movie.
her apartment is
Unbelievable.
littered with 40s headshots
Yes.
of Lauren Bacall.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's like the equivalent of the end of Furious 7, where Vin Diesel just starts reciting a poem to Paul Walker and being like, he was a real guy and he died. Like, the moment is just Bacall thinking about her career.
Mhm.
And it is
Right.
deeply effective.
How did it feel having people look at you with such admiration, looking yourself in the mirror with such appreciation? How did that feel? 80-second pause. It was wonderful.
There's a
was
moment you see
wonderful.
her start to go into it, and then it feels like she's preparing to say something, say her line, and then she like stops and goes even deeper into it.
It's so good. It's just the only reason. I think she lost the Oscar because people thought negatively about the movie.
I
Yes.
agree. Yeah.
And that was what did her in. And obviously people thought positively about The English Patient.
Fucking
A film
love
that is
the English Patient.
barely remembered.
Yeah.
Like a film that 0 Gen Z people have seen.
But
Like if I
let's
said The
remember,
English Patient on TikTok, they would be
Yeah.
like, there's an Englishman in the hospital? Like,
It's like
what
no, you
do
can
you mean?
You can watch it in 87 parts on TikTok for sure.
Yeah.
The plane.
Yeah.
vertical
Miramax
photog-
releases The English Patient in 87 parts on
the
TikTok.
cultural legacy of that movie at the time, or let's say not the legacy, but the reputation in the moment is the Seinfeld episode.
Yeah, it's like it's boring.
too long.
Right.
Elaine
I'd rather
saying,
watch Sack Lunch.
I dislike the English
Sack
Patient,
Lunch.
makes her a pariah in society,
Mhm.
is the thing you cannot admit out loud is the bit
Right.
in the Seinfeld
But
episode.
that episode is about how she's speaking truth to power.
Right, they're
really. Right,
trying to
right.
start to shift the narrative
Yeah.
around it. Within that year, that movie was untouchable.
Yeah, no, I mean, people
you
were
not have
hot
a
for English.
heart?
I remember as a 12-year-old, right? No, 10-year-old, it's 96, watching those Oscars being like, why is this boring-ass movie winning everything?
My parents took me to the Oscar party. I had not seen any of the nominated films.
Damn.
I said, what's good? It's an
Glamour.
English Patient. I went down the ballot.
And
My dad
right.
went, well, you're going to lose this one because Bacall's winning supporting actress. I went,
Right.
why? I went, she's an old lady and she was in a bunch of old movies. She was
Married
married
to
to a
Bogey,
different
come
bad guy,
on, you know?
whatever. And I was like, you said people like The English Patient. I was the only one who got fucking Binoche right.
Right.
Because I
Wow.
just went, it's going to win
Well,
every
you got,
cat.
it
It
sounds like
literally
you got fines and
Is
Kristen's got Thomas wrong.
representative of a long, boring movie when
Yeah.
we were kids.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
the
it's
one.
the one.
It was the movie that
It's
we
2
called
tapes.
long and boring.
It was the
It's-
last Zhivago.
Yeah, it was. And
It was
it's
the
Ray
rare-
Fiennes with a bandage on going.
You know, it's right pre-DVD. It's
2
one
tapes.
of the final.
Mm.
It
Final
was
2
one of the
tapes.
final ubiquitous 2 tapers.
Yeah.
That and Titanic.
Sound of Music.
Bobby,
right?
Huge point.
Titanic.
Yeah. Titanic has to be like
Yeah.
the last.
Titanic's the last
Major
gasp.
2
of the
tapes.
I
2
think
tape.
English Patient is now like hugely underrated. Like
Yeah.
now, I
It's a
think it would
really
be
good
wrong.
But it's
fucking-
because
yeah.
of the stereotype from
That's
when we were
why.
kids.
It's
That's
come
Because
all
we
the
were
way
like,
back around.
we were like, what a snooze. We got to
I-
watch this whole
I
thing.
think
Now
Anthony
every movie
Minghella-
is the English Patient.
Anthony Minghella now, everyone's like, oh, the man who directed the masterpiece, The Talented Miss Ripley. And I'm like, that movie rocks too, but like, you know, he won 8 fucking Oscars
Yeah.
for this other movie. And
Right.
they're like, never heard of it.
And
I don't
I
know
was
what
too
that
was
busy
kind
watching
of-
The Mirror Has Face.
Yeah, sorry.
That's right. It's funny how it's now underrated, and Binoche is probably underrated.
No, and
Yeah.
Ripley was
In that
not
movie, not
super well
generally.
liked when it came out.
No, people were like, too weird.
Certainly
too
seen as a
dark.
disappointment after
yeah.
English Patient. Yeah.
Okay, so she turns into Olivia Newton-John, and she's a hottie baby. And
My skin
does
is
her hair.
she's got
crawling this whole
curves.
sequence.
It's not
whole
It's
great.
the
makeover
worst
sequence.
thing.
When
Like I'm
she-
angry this is happening.
It's the
When
worst thing.
she takes the plate of tomatoes and celery and carrots and sniffs it
Ugh.
lovingly, I was like, we got a problem.
Well, the worst,
here.
tough.
the worst
It's
is when
tough.
she hangs out with her best friend and says, "I couldn't possibly eat a whole hamburger
For
Right.
lunch?
for lunch."
For lunch?
And it's
Brenda
like,
Vaccaro?
Shut up.
And Brenda Vaccara's like,
She
you've
becomes an asshole.
abandoned me.
She kind of
Right,
becomes an
Brenda
asshole.
Vaccara's
She-
eating
Brenda
a
Vaccara's
Baconator.
like, correct me if I'm wrong, but Babs, you look exactly the same.
Yes.
You're just dressing
You're just
differently.
literally wearing tight clothes.
It's
Right.
The difference is cleavage,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Basically, that's
Right. Barbara wasn't going to gain weight, then lose it for this role. Like, absolutely not.
Okay,
No.
so then I'm like, all right, we're pulling. Okay, this is crazy, but we're landing the plane on the 5th act, and then they're like, no, we got to circle one more time. Pierce Brosnan is now single.
Right, of
Mimi has
course.
dumped him.
Right.
So now Rose will consider whether to date Pierce Brosnan, her
Right, 'cause
original,
this-
Her original
love.
This very long makeover montage is intercut, which is happening over months, is intercut with Bridges in different foreign countries
Yes.
calling her and getting angrier and
Please,
angrier.
why
that
aren't
she-
you
And
picking up
talking
the
to
phone?
various
My
like
entire
European
life.
colleges about his number book.
Yes.
I
Number
guess
book.
is that successful?
Only in like
It's like-
Germany. Again, he's like Hasselhoff.
Did
like,
the
yeah,
audiences
it's
shout out "Do the Primes" like it's Freebird?
yeah, right.
Listen,
It's also like
13.
You've just spent half of the movie trying to tell us that no one understands this book, and then the
Right.
second half, it's like everyone loves this,
this
book,
movie
and they can't get
cannot
enough
figure
of
out who this guy is.
He's big in Europe. That's literally a thing.
Huge. in
Isn't he
Europe.
handsome?
Yeah.
So does she fuck
No, she
Pierce?
doesn't.
No,
No.
she just considers.
No,
Yeah.
which is so fucking
She should fuck him.
annoying.
Because like
She
Diane
gets to the
Keaton
yard
line.
fucks Keanu Reeves.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
They
It's
fuck.
like,
Yes.
And then
Yes.
she's like, "Yeah, this is a little ludicrous. I'm not going to date him
Barbara's
forever."
so
Yeah.
schlocky
And this
that
guy's
she's
actually
Keanu.
kind of
Yeah.
insane.
She dicks down with him.
Yeah.
But she's had a crush on him this whole
Yeah.
time.
Right. She
Like,
should
it's
have
like-
a role in the hay.
At that point, you gotta know.
And
Yeah.
also, it's like she's, Bridges couldn't do it. Like, come on, so she should get with someone.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
James
Instead,
Bond.
he goes to her apartment.
He says the wrong thing, and when she's at the
Yes, he
quarter
says-
yard line,
Right.
quarter yard line, right?
Sure.
Quarter yard.
15-yard
She's
line?
into baseball, not football.
Quarter
What's the
yard.
way you say this?
The ends, the red zone.
He's in the red zone.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
But yeah, he's on the 1 yard line.
That's what I was looking
that's what
for.
you're looking
Thank
for.
you.
He's
Sure,
rounding third.
He's
It's like they break the yards into
Come
quarters. I really don't know anything
Oh
about
wait,
football.
a bunch of college students suddenly looked up.
yeah.
What are they saying? Third base? And he blows it.
Yes.
And
Because he
then-
said, "I guess I never realized I was always in love with you."
right. He's being mean again. He's negging
Yeah.
her
He is,
unintentionally.
he is,
negging
he
her.
is.
Because I always was attracted to you, save for the pesky business of me not liking your face or body.
Or
basically
hair.
is
I
what
like
he
it more
says.
crimped and
Right.
I was going to say
blonde.
your face, which is the same, your body, which is the same, and your hair, which is slightly different. Yes, thank you. So great. So girly got a haircut.
Girl got a haircut.
It's this. The thesis of this movie is stop letting your mom do your hair.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get a fucking haircut.
Get a stylist.
Yeah.
Now, is it Park Avenue? Basically, Bridges comes back and in Park Avenue, cleared of traffic, they have a
Yes.
20-minute conversation. about how they do love each other and
wearing a
should
great
get married. Oh wait, they are married. And
No,
then
that comes later because first he goes over to her. He
She says
returns
no.
home.
Oh God, yes.
She says,
that's
"I wanna
right.
break up."
It's so
This is the moment
long.
where it really feels full Apatow because
Yeah.
it's like
It's
the
the movie's like 2
Well,
hours.
because she
and
won't let him
5
talk, so
minutes.
he's like,
And she's
like,
sniffing
"No,
the
I've been
tomatoes.
thinking about this for 3 months. I'm skinny now, and I'm hot, and I got a new
I
haircut.
hate that scene.
And-
I hate.
and
these.
he's
Just
like-
let him say something. Jesus.
Bros has this exact same thing where I'm watching it and I'm like, this movie should have gotten so much more praise. And it's the scene where his name?
Bros?
Yes.
Yeah, Billy Eichner. God, I can't
No,
believe
but
I
the other
forgot.
what's the other guy's name?
Oh, the Hallmark
Luke
guy?
Luke
McFarlane.
McFarlane.
Yeah.
Yes,
Cutie
Luke
pie.
McFarlane shows up and is like, I figured it out. I'm sorry. I overreacted. And Billy Eichner's like, thank you for saying all that. I need another 20 minutes to process.
Right.
shit."
I'm gonna go.
Right.
And the movie
Dumb.
does another
Yeah,
cul-de-sac.
this movie
and I-
could have been 90 minutes.
Totally. And it's the same thing where it's like they have the scene where it's like, you
Man,
can
remember
resolve this
Bros?
in this room.
Mm-hmm.
You let this whole thing play out. Let her get uncomfortable by the fact that he seems more interested now. But like, don't leave this room until this conversation is over.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, they both walk off and are like, I need another 30 minutes of screen time to figure
Ridiculous.
this
To
out.
decide whether or not I want to fuck you.
Yes.
And that's all it is.
Yes. He also becomes nonverbal in this scene.
Well, because he's like hubba hubba. He's horny
He's-
again.
Can't
Boob
deal with
vision.
it.
And he can't speak. He can't breathe.
He's on Siegel's couch rolling around like Giamatti and Lady in the Water at one point, right?
Yeah.
And Siegel's like, go fight for her. I can't remember why they end up. I guess.
Every girl I've dated, I've given her a copy of Farewell to Arms. She thinks it's a diet book.
Wow.
I mean, it is crazy because
You didn't have to just like shoot me team on that one.
Barbara sees Jeff Bridges dance.
Yeah.
And she loves how he dances. And so she decides in her mind that she needs to have him dance in the film because that's what he's so naturally good at. Weird. And so I think she's fixated on having that be the end of the movie.
She says
but
she
she
specifically
doesn't-
doesn't like dancing.
But she doesn't know how to get it in the film. So I think that's why we got 20 more minutes because then she's like, well, if they end up dancing together, that's what I want
the other
on the street.
The other thing about why we get the other 20 minutes is the other scene that's in the book where she says, I didn't know how to end it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then she goes to the opera
And
and,
here's
she sees
Puccini
Puccini
and blah, blah, blah.
and she's like, this is how I end it.
Right.
But it's like, how do you get them on the street with the man singing Puccini in the
Right.
window? Well, we need another scene. How do we get to the other scene? We need a couple scenes between it. Like,
I was laughing from your intro because what if it was a guy just doing a podcast and they're hearing it out their window and they're like, we love this podcast. And then they're just like listening to the podcast about the big dig
Pow!
together.
I just shit my pants. It's just echoing out of the window.
That's real New York.
But wait, the order is they have this scene in the apartment when he
Right.
comes back and she rejects him. Then she goes to Pierce, where she's sort of
Yes.
like,
Then she goes
let's
to
see
Pierce
what
and
these
he goes
boobs
to
can do.
Siegel.
Right.
And then they meet
she's-
Let's
on the
really test
street.
them out. Yeah.
Right. And then
and
they
then
meet
he wears his beautiful coat.
then they have right. And then he's like, wait, but like you're hot now, so like I do
Right,
love
'cause
you. And
She goes to drinks with Mimi Rogers to
Oh, I
talk
forgot about
about
that scene.
welcome to the world of
oh
being
right.
pretty.
Yeah.
And Pierce is like, oh, there you are, hubba hubba. long
Mimi
time no
Rogers
see.
does her own baby version of the Lauren Bacall. You're gonna watch your beauty disappear. You become the last woman they look at in the room.
Which never happened to Mimi
Then
Rogers, by the
Pierce
way.
sees her. Then Pierce tells her
Still hot.
that Mimi Rogers left him for the masseuse.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Then she turns Pierce down, and then they meet in the street.
And they kiss and decide to get married. Remember that they already are married. And
Good
then
line.
it is. And then the guy is singing Puccini, which is
I
fine.
love
Lip syncing Puccini, which is
so
great.
funny. Oh yeah, he's
It's
lip
funny, but
syncing it. That's funny.
And-
He orchestrates the moment that she says doesn't happen in real
Right.
life.
And that's
they're
what's
literally
so
like,
absurd.
what? You
And
know?
I think that's a Nora moment because it's like only in New York.
It's a Nora
Yes.
moment, but it's also a fucking John Patrick Shanley moment. Like,
True.
she kind of did borrow from a lot of movies
Yeah.
in the 80s and early 90s,
Mhm.
and she never once references them in the book. And it's like, do not tell me you
Yeah,
weren't
Barbara,
thinking of
come on.
Moonstruck, Sleeps in
Yes.
Seattle, and When Harry Met Sally. She's
Right.
a-
So-
this is a demented The Fly version. It's like you put all those movies into
Yeah.
the Fly
Threw
Yeah.
Murr in there.
transporter, and it comes out with this, and they're like, oh, I guess
Right.
we can
It's
release
also
this.
borrowing from like 10 years of movies that got Oscar nominations and wins, were huge hits and were critically beloved.
Well,
Like she's borrowing from
And
the
she
top
said she
tier.
wanted to make an easy movie that people liked, and so that's what she's
Yeah.
doing. She's
Yeah.
making Frankenstein.
And it's an easy movie that I like. It's
Monster.
just ridiculous.
yeah, no,
Much like Frankenstein's monster.
much like Francis. Yeah, no, totally. No,
Like, I like him. He's one of my best friends.
do you have
He
the
doesn't
part,
look normal.
There's
Go
a great part in the book. So like when we're talking about, because we were like, she doesn't address the critics, so she does. Do you remember this, Bobby? So
Wait,
she
no.
says, The reviews came in. Well, she says the box office was bigger than she'd ever had in her career, which is cool. The reviews came. Roger Ebert liked the movie and understood what I was trying to say.
Roger Ebert's review we have to talk about.
It's really positive.
So he says it's good. And then she says, but other reviews were less than kind. That hurt. And it was amazing how some people managed to misinterpret the movie. A magazine editor in New York, well, she won't name, saw the picture and said, I don't like the message of the movie. It means you have to be beautiful to be loved. She completely missed the whole point. Rose just changed her attitude, not her face. And Gregory actually started falling in love with the old, unglamorous Rose. That frightened him, and that's why he ran away. Now he has come to terms with her new self, and the irony is that Gregory loves her in spite of the fact that she's prettier now. What?
I don't know if I buy that.
I think that is
Skip that paragraph
100%
somehow.
what it
Without
is.
the montage, that makes more
not
sense.
it.
I think
Right.
it's what the movie is
No,
trying
it's
to
wrong.
do and does not do at all. Because the scene where he goes over to their place and sees her for the first time in a while, it feels like that's what he's trying to get out of his system, but he's also so horned
He's like,
up.
I missed you.
Right.
You
I missed
were away.
old
I
you.
missed you, but I missed you when we were gone.
They never let him verbalize
And when
that.
we tried
They
to
didn't
fuck,
let her
atti-
anything. She's
no,
always
her
cutting him
attitude
off.
never
It's
changes.
a lot of
don't
numbers.
Her
think-
attitude is always the same.
when they were
Yes.
trying to fuck, the reason why he rejects her is partially because he's like, this is now, it's not how it's supposed to work.
Right.
And I'm so on one track minded. But also, doesn't he get that weird, horny, confused thing? Because
Yes.
I think towards the end, he's like, when they have dinner and he's kind of like, "Ugh," when she goes to the bathroom, he's like, he like falls or whatever.
Yeah.
He's getting horny.
Yeah.
Okay. So
God,
that's
I didn't even put that together.
maybe he
It's a
just doesn't have a
callback
lot
to
of
his.
blood.
his, oh God.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
just
too
he's
horny.
running
when he
to
goes
his
Wile E.
penis.
Coyote.
Right.
Yeah.
If
yeah.
you kind of think about that, it's like he's in love with her mind, and
Sure.
then he comes around to the rest of her.
It's the
he
perfect
falls-
bite. It just
right.
takes him a while to
The perfect
It
recognize
bite.
takes him a while that he realizes, oh, I actually do like this woman in a 360 way,
But
and
you-
all of
You
it.
almost need, if you're gonna do the makeover, you almost need him at the end to say, I miss the way you used to look.
Right, of
Take
course.
all of this off.
Of course.
Right?
Straighten your hair again, or whatever you had with your hair. It's brown. Make it brown.
Yeah.
There's the very Nora line that I think is so funny where he's like, you're so practical and like, or whatever. And she's like, God, I sound like an airline. I think that's a really funny line.
Yeah.
Brian Adams singing over the credits, I think is a huge misfire. I know he was hot shit like in this moment, but
Right.
like that song it doesn't fit
Song's
the movie.
not good
it's not
either.
good.
I do
It's not
miss
good.
Love Theme from Blank. I
Yeah.
think that is
Yeah.
a thing that should come
She should
back.
fucking
She
sing
hummed.
it.
She hummed that, by the way. She
What
wrote
was-
that by humming because she's crazy.
There was
Finally
one.
found
She can't
someone?
write music, so she just hummed
just
it. And they
hums.
said, "Well, write this."
Yeah, sure.
My other favorite line was another Lauren Bacall. I should be dead, not having conversations. I wrote that down.
That's
great.
good.
And it's
That's
like
really-
She has I mean,
she's
I
great.
made my coffee is a really good line.
Yeah.
And then there's the bit where Mimi Rogers is like, if you keep behaving this way, I'm going to blow your your birth certificate into a Christmas card. And Lauren Bacall is like, I never should have encouraged you to speak. Like
Yes,
that shit,
yes.
I'm like, this is juicy.
And there's enough of that it kind of makes you lose sight of the fact that the plot is so
Right.
dumb.
I feel like
Yeah.
it's crazy. We're going through this plot and it's like so absurd,
It's-
and we're
it's-
kind of sounding like it's bad. But the line, this movie is written so nicely. It's so fun to watch.
It's
Like
Which
really-
was Roger
it's
Ebert's
never
compliment
uninteresting.
to it.
Right.
His
Yeah.
major compliment was that he liked listening to them talk to each
Yes.
other.
Two
Also-
articulate people talking circles around love for
That
two
it's
acts.
a movie that's actually trying to dig into complicated dynamics, whether
Right.
it presents them realistically.
Right.
It is
Or
not
even
dealing
well.
with a
It
fails,
superficial
but it's
type
trying
of
really hard.
courtship.
Yeah.
The thing I always remember is when they talked about this movie on Siskel and Ebert at the movies. Siskel did the sort of line that every critic was doing of, the whole movie is look at me, I'm so ugly, but we,
Vanity,
the audience, are supposed to
yeah,
tell her that
right.
she's beautiful and she's always lit like this, framed like this. And Ebert's like the one guy in this period who I saw push back on this, I think correctly, where he was like, Gene, you are being disingenuous if you are pretending that you are not aware of how you play on camera.
Right.
And your own angles and what you need to wear and how you
Wow.
need to be styled and what you eat. Like, we're both on TV, right? And Ebert basically made this point of like, neither of us are in a position that is as sexualized as Barbra Streisand. But
speak
even
for
for
yourself,
being
Roger.
two intellectuals on a like movie review show,
Yeah.
we're obviously
give this
thinking
a
about
bad
this
faith
all
read.
the time. We're obviously always asking,
Right. Don't
hey,
slam someone for doing what
by
we
the
know
way,
is part
am
of
I
the
Right.
slouching? And they're just like, well, we don't think of ourselves as primarily being beautiful. So when we're doing it, it's pragmatic. It's not vain. But Barbara, it's viewed as this is an obsessive control.
Also, she shoots herself. It's beautiful. She looks great, and the movie looks great. Like she has. It's not like she's just shooting herself, and everyone looks like a hot mess, and it's so weird and distracting from the movie. It's like the movie looks great. New York looks great. She looks great.
New York looks great.
That's
they shot it
it.
all on location.
And
They built sets in like the Harlem Armory.
That's so her.
Apparently,
like
it snowed a lot.
I mean,
Did you read this? This is in the book that apparently the Whitney,
coldest winter. Or something?
It was a cold winter, and the Whitney asked for her Edward Hoppers that she privately owns.
I was saying about this.
Said, hey, can you lend them out? And she was like, no, I'm too busy. And then she's like, I should have lent them out
because I could have looked at them.
Yeah. She didn't want them to be away from her for that long. And
how many fucking hoppers is she sitting on?
They wanted two.
Okay,
they wanted two.
She could have gone and seen them.
No, she's so funny about this stuff. Also, in the beginning of the chapter, she says, I went to shoot this movie. I hoped it wouldn't take that long. And my Malibu house needed renovations. So I said, by the time I get back, they'll be done. And this is like what I love about her, where it's like the practical, like she went home to Malibu, the renovations were done. And she said, well, that's that with the movies. I love my little house. I'm not leaving. And she's never left since.
Oh, I got them all in the basement. I don't
got
need
them all.
anything else.
Brosnan defends. There were a lot of reports at the time, sort of this narrative of like, this movie's out of control. She's such a diva. People hate working for her. Jeff Wells for Entertainment Weekly wrote a slam article in 1996 saying that like 15 coworkers had quit, over the course of production because she's such a tough boss and all that.
I do think that's true.
Jeff Wells never has problems.
She
with
talks
women.
about that in the thing.
Yeah.
She's very demanding.
Brosnan says, I've seen male directors throw tantrums and nobody says a peep.
Right.
Yeah.
He defends her.
She's kind of the OG that,
And the movie, it made its budget. It made $41 million. It cost about $42 million. It made a little more worldwide. Critics slammed it. It lost its Oscars, and it didn't get any real major Oscar consideration. Obviously.
This is one of those movies where it's like, I would love the rental data.
Yeah.
Rental data.
Right. There's money.
Give me this.
Movies for moms.
Movies for moms.
This might have been like the top blockbuster rental of 1997.
Yeah.
There's a very good chance.
Since this film, she has appeared in 3 movies. 2 Fockers and The Guilt Trip.
The
That's
Guilt
it.
Trip.
She's never directed.
I think it's very telling that the 3 movies she's done after this are her just playing overbearing Jewish mother in overt comedy.
Right, where it's like she barely has to do anything to be good at that. Like she's,
but not only that, like she's totally stepping as far away as she can from the Barbra persona, where anyone can like, in the Fockers movie, she is hypersexualized, hyper confident. There is no who me kind of thing. And Guilt Trip, she's like actually a wallflower kind of introvert.
Right.
But she's not giving them the space to critique her for doing the same thing over and over again. And it's like, you read all these reviews and they're just like, why can't Barbra get over the fact that her schnoz is this big and we all critique it? Where people are feeding into the complex at the same time as they're critiquing her for thinking about it. She becomes like the silliest comedy version of different types of older Jewish archetypes where no one can go back to the same insults anymore, or critiques, let's say.
And she's not really acknowledging that was definitely going through her mind in the memoir.
Yeah.
It's something that she doesn't even want to touch, really.
Yeah.
The one movie she wishes she directed since this movie is Hidden Figures.
What?
Which she was given the script and was interested.
Wow.
And I think because she's so fucking slow and, hems and haws, fucking Ted Melfi gets attached and, then
That's
the
why
movie's got to
Gypsy
happen.
is the only movie that she could possibly
Basically.
do ever for the rest of her directing career.
That is the one movie, though, she's publicly expressed, like, I wish I had directed that. And she's like, and I think you did a good job with it. Like,
No one else is going to direct Gypsy or make it.
No.
So it has to be
No.
her,
No, it's
or
gotta
it's
be
not
her.
going to happen. And she's not in a race with anyone except for herself
Well, she's in a race with time.
and time.
But-
Well, herself, yeah.
Yeah, that's herself, I
Yes.
guess. Right.
Did she, you would know this, did she ever, what was her comment on, because I know she said something about the Gaga Star is Born. What was her commentary? Because she did see it. She didn't black it out.
liked it.
She did like it.
Yes,
Okay.
which
She's
is
kind of pro
huge.
Gaga,
She's pro
right?
it.
But
Yeah.
that's huge for her.
Right.
To even acknowledge that it exists.
That's what I'm
is
saying with the
something,
funny girl
right?
thing
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Lea Michele. Like, I don't even think
Yeah.
she acknowledged that it existed.
Yeah.
Maybe she did, but she never went to see it. No, she definitely watched A Star is Born. I mean, I think her Star is Born is not kind of, lauded as
Yeah.
much as.
But the
I-
nose thing in the
Right.
Gaga, we
It-
got shades of Barbara there.
Of
And I know
course.
it's Gaga's
two
own.
episode on
quote
it,
unquote
yes.
ugly ducklings who are actually beautiful. Right.
Right.
But yes.
But that movie, the Bradley movie is so indebted to the Barbara movie specifically.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
also, we've been making the argument that Bradley as a filmmaker is maybe closer to Barbara than any of the other star
Absolutely.
directors that he tends
Wow.
to get lumped in with.
That's probably his closest parallel.
Yes.
My, that's so true.
Of anyone.
Yes.
They're both so
Yeah.
into it.
That's why
They're both
he
really
rocks.
into it and really like, I'm hideous.
Well, and then
Yeah,
every
yeah.
time,
Earnest.
Yes.
every time
Do I
I hear
deserve
some
love?
gossipy
Yes.
like, "Oh, you won't believe what a diva Cooper is being about," like, "Oh, it's got to be shown here." I'm like,
I won't.
yes,
He
that's
cares.
what I
Yes.
want.
He
I want
gives a
prima
shit.
Yes.
donna directors. Like,
Right.
we don't have those anymore.
Right.
It's like what is the iconic who is on the Actors Studio and Bradley Cooper's in the audience because he's a
There's
student.
so
And they keep cutting to Bradley, and it's before he's famous, and he's just staring.
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
just
yeah.
obsessed
Didn't he ask a
with
question?
it. He
He
asked
asked
a
a question in
question.
2 different episodes. He asked in Sean
Who is
Penn
it?
Sean
and
Penn.
De Niro.
And De Niro,
Amazing.
De Niro, De Niro.
He's in the
Incredible.
audience
He's
for
what I'm thinking
multiples,
of.
but those are the
Oh.
2 where he asked questions.
he's
It's like, of course, that guy is taking.
I
it
do
this
wonder,
seriously.
and maybe after, and when Barbara saw A Star Is Born, I bet she reached out to Bradley Cooper,
No
if
question.
anyone, no
Yeah.
question, because he's a direct. Because she was like,
You get it.
"Wow, like you really directed this the
Yeah.
hell out of like
Yeah.
this is to
Took it
me you are."
seriously.
Versus Gaga though, like I'm sure she was like, "Oh, Gaga, that's amazing, slay mama," but Bradley, oh
Bradley's the creative.
yeah, slay mama.
Slay mama.
Slay Mama.
Barbra Streisand has
She
never
sent
said slay
Gaga
mama.
a nice note.
Yeah, or like
you know?
flowers.
Yeah.
she sends a box. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rachel, our friend Rachel Ziegler on the Stars Born episode,
Yes.
talked about her surprise gift from Babs.
She got
Wait,
a
what'd
Barbara
she
box with a handwritten note.
Oh my
Amazing.
god,
like without obviously it just appeared
It just-
one day.
yeah.
Yes.
that's
Um,
amazing.
All right, box office game Griffin. Before we wrap on Barbara,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No, are there any other final thoughts?
on Mirror.
Oh, music. I love the music.
It's
I think the music is
the
beautiful.
music is great. It's just again, it's just like
It's classic.
80s.
It's classic.
This movie's just
it
a little out of
swells.
time.
right.
It beep boop loops
But
sometimes.
that's what makes it so fascinating to me. It's like remember the horrible what was that horrible Christmas movie that was on Amazon last year that was almost fine? The one with Zoe Deutsch.
Fuck, I love Zoe Deutsch.
I can't believe I
Something
didn't
from
watch
Tiffany's.
this. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Something from
yeah.
Tiffany's. It is as close as
Yeah.
I've seen
It was okay.
in the world of streaming holiday
It's
movies.
okay.
It was almost theatrical. It was like
Mm.
almost there, but there's no score.
Yeah.
There's literally
right.
no score.
Yeah, it's like empty
and
hallway.
if they had just added music, it would have made it 20% better.
Yeah.
And this movie has the music that you want, where it's like distractingly good.
Yes.
It's like it's. I think it's even composed by Barbra Streisand. That's one of the credits. It's like composed by Barbra
no,
Streisand.
she hummed
Barbra
it. She
Streisand.
hummed the hell.
Like,
She
like,
hummed the hell out of it.
Even if the movie is kookaloonie insane, like it does enough stuff well that it distracts you from how kookaloonie insane it is.
Yeah.
Like it.
Yeah.
Since this movie, Hamlish did Informant and Behind the Candelabra for Soderbergh,
Oh,
both of
Behind
which
the
were like
Candelabra.
obviously Soderbergh is like,
Informant
I have
scores-
a mood. I wish
Yeah.
he
you
died
know, like
so much younger than
He
I
did.
thought.
But do you know the only other movie he was involved with
In
and all was
Between?
is How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Makes
Which I,
sense.
you know, where like I think
Makes
they're
sense.
using his music.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's original
But How
music.
to Lose a Guy in 10 Days
That's
is
cool.
Kinda
sort
going
of
for
the
that.
simplified version of this movie.
Yeah.
That's just like pitch it for the mall, take out the complexity.
I'd rather watch this than How to Lose a Guy. I weirdly, as much as I love Kate
You
Hudson,
hate
I
it?
find that movie absolutely
that-
insufferable.
I agree.
I cannot
There's
watch
something
it.
I find
Yeah.
kind of gross about
It's
that movie that I
awful.
can't put my
They're
finger
leaning
on.
on each other in the poster.
Well, the poster's great. I've no
Poster's
notes for the
if
poster.
you broke that
That
movie
is-
down like we just did this movie, you'd be like, this movie makes no sense. It's
Well,
completely
that is
stupid.
that is
FJO,
the movie that I
right.
always think
Yeah.
about when you see the conversation about like, oh, the rom-com's dead, bring the rom-com back. It's like
Not that one.
Even when we had the rom-com,
Yeah.
they weren't good.
No,
90% of them were not
it's
good.
the thing about the rom-com's dead thing is like you're like, well, look at where it ended up.
Yes.
And it's the same with the straight comedy, like the kind of star-driven comedy.
Sure.
Where you're like, you look at the last few years, it's like, well, we were left with like Amy Schumer. No offense to Amy Schumer,
Mhm.
but like these vehicles where it's like it got a little tired. Now it'll come
McCarthy
back.
ran through her goodwill.
Yeah,
very
McCarthy.
quickly.
You know, like
Right.
where it's like people got sick of that, and they
Yeah.
got sick of the Matthew McConaughey rom-coms, and whoever fucking
Yeah, and
Heigl.
people got
Yeah.
well. Heigl, we've made the argument
Heigl
that
drove a stake through it.
no,
yeah.
that the real killer of the rom com is Gerard Butler. This is an
Butler.
argument we put forward,
Butler,
but
yes.
Butler's
Oh,
doing
yeah.
like
Jerry.
3 of them.
But now we have 40,000 Christmas-themed rom-coms
Yes.
on various Lifetime adjacent
that-
streamers.
that play when you're dead on your couch,
That are
dead, not
literally
breathing.
dead.
They just
awful.
autoplay.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's like we don't have rom-coms. We do.
Have
They're
you seen the
just
one where-
not where you think they are.
Asa Butterfield gets stuck in the train station, and he has to end. What was it
How
called?
could I
is
see
that-
that? You just made it up right now.
Asa Butterfield got stuck in a train station? Sign me up.
Is that Let It Snow?
No,
What
your
is Let It
Christmas
Snow?
or mine? Your
No, I haven't
Christmas
seen
it.
or
Jesus.
mine?
Your
right?
Christmas-
Christmas
they're
or
stuck at
mine. I just
somewhere.
saw a good one called Xmas. Did you see this being
No.
advertised on
Oh,
Amazon?
Oh, like
EX?
EX?
yeah, it's
Fucking Bobby.
Leighton Meester and the guy from Upload, one of my faves, the main
Oh,
guy.
you love
Late
Upload.
Logan? No,
he's
no, that's
he's the
Upgrade.
other.
No, he's from Arrow. or
Amel.
He's
I
not.
love-
He's Stephen Amell. He's Stephen Amell.
Right, he's the brother
Of the other guy.
of
Of the
Arrow.
other-
and it's
of
a
the other
cute.
Amell,
It's a
yes.
cute family.
But those movies,
Genie.
Is Genie out?
Genie's
Stop.
out.
if you try to
Talking
watch
about
Genie,
Genie's on
Genie.
Peacock.
you're a TV expert.
Bobby is obsessed with having seen Genie.
I
Not
texted
the
the
movie
Sims.
itself, but
No one has seen
I
Genie.
texted the trailer since he didn't even respond. It's the only
It's
time I can
not
remember David
bad.
having no comment
I
on a
act
text.
like it's not bad.
Wait, speaking of you,
Oh,
Speaking of you,
what did you think about when Nessun Dorma started playing?
what did I think about when it
What
started
did you
playing?
think about when Puccini started playing?
Like what did it?
Pavarotti's
When
performance
Turandot-
of
When
Nessun Dorma.
Turandot started playing at the end of this,
What did it make me think
what
of?
did it
Mr.
make
Kush?
you think
Fuck.
about?
wow, it's a quiz or something.
Well, this is the thing.
Who's
I was
asking you
watching
the
it.
question?
Bobby Finger is asking me the question.
What other iconic scene is set to this song?
This is what I was trying to remember.
I mean, there are plenty, but
Yeah.
which one?
the most.
Rogue Nation flute gun.
oh, of course.
I was like, wow, this song really does inspire things in people.
Yes.
I just love how inspirational opera continues to be to like
It can
filmmakers.
inspire you
they,
to assassinate.
They hear an aria and they're like, "Oh my god!"
I know.
You take out your
Pavarotti
flute gun.
doing Nessun Dorma might be like the most famous like vocal performance ever recorded.
That and Vin
Probably.
Diesel doing Rihanna's Stay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Those are the two.
Those are the two. No, I think we're circling a thing here, right?
Yeah.
Which is there are a lot of reasons and ways that led the whole complication of the sort of rom-com on life support, certainly theatrically, right? A lot of it is this issue of like, well, you can just put them on fucking Hallmark and streaming services
Yeah.
and make them
No
for cheap
effort.
with
Yeah.
people who aren't really stars, and people eat them up as
'Cause
like
people want the
passive
formula.
entertainment.
Yeah.
They love the formula.
Yeah.
But what you're missing is these movies actually need to be produced at a big budget.
Well, they're magical
Yes.
when done right.
All I know is that
Yeah.
Sony has currently dated for Valentine's Day Madam Web, the most romantic film.
Her
well,
father
her
in the
father
jungle.
was in the jungle,
was researching spiders right before
she
died.
died.
People researching spiders right,
Right
before she died.
He died mysteriously.
Did you
He's
see she
covered in
dropped her
weird red
agency
marks.
like last week?
Who, Madam Web?
No, Dakota Johnson dropped.
I thought I could
Johnson
see
got into it
everything.
and dropped her agent like
I thought you could see the
like
picture.
48 hours.
I mean,
after that
can you
trailer came
imagine the amount of female leads who were like, no, like, and then finally some agent is.
So she's a spider? Not really.
No.
So why is she? Well, we can send you a graphic. No, I think I no.
Even a movie expensive can look ugly. Example,
Who
Madam
directed
Web.
But you're
S.J.
so,
Clarkson,
Oh,
who's
that's
one of the best
Good
TV,
TV director,
directors.
right.
Yeah.
well,
But you're so
everyone said
right.
it looked like a CW pilot.
production design is
Is-
unfortunately half of the
This
thing.
is
also
this is the
shooting on
Home
you
Again
want a
problem.
movie to look lush. And
Home
that's-
Again is this like amazing case study of what does a Nancy Meyers movie look like with no money, and you're
Yeah.
like not the same.
Yeah,
Right.
not
The
the same.
vibes
And why
are
do you think
off.
we're
Yeah.
obsessed with Gilded Age? Because it's
Yes.
good? No, because it looks incredible, and
It
they're
looks
not
incredible.
making movies like that.
It looks incredible.
But look, this complicated discourse cycle, which we obviously in small part fed into, of Nancy being upset that everyone focuses on the kitchens in her movies
Right.
and saying that's not all that it's
Our
about.
fault.
I'm like, yeah, but also the fact is you're the only person who got to make movies with kitchens at this scale.
Yes.
In a way that's
Yeah.
equivalent to James Cameron being the only guy who gets to shoot water correctly.
Yeah.
You know? It's
Nancy is hearing, oh, we love your kitchens. Nancy's not hearing people say, like, we love how much money you're able to spend on film,
Yes.
and nobody
Yeah.
spends money on
emblematic
film
of
It's being
anymore.
everything
communicated
else
to her
in the
and-
soup of her film.
That's why she's so angry, because all she hears is people being like, kitchens,
Kitchen.
kitchens.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
and
the
it's like,
well,
kitchen
she's
lady.
hearing a
Yeah.
misogynistic version of it completely fairly, but
Yes.
it's never been communicated to her well.
Well, I don't
No,
think she's able.
never.
Yeah. Well, yes.
And she will
Penetrate
and,
the bubble.
and,
One of us
and it's
will
been
one day.
communicated to her so many times that she will reject any future
If
communication.
she hears the word kitchen, right?
She
She'll,
spins
She's like,
out.
I will fucking kill you.
Yeah.
I will fucking kill you.
She
I
will.
hear her next movie is going to take place in a studio apartment. Where's the kitchen? Fucking point it
There
out
isn't
to
even
me.
a galley kitchen.
Justice for Rachel Handler.
They don't
It's
even
got a
have
hot pot.
They don't even have counter space for a microwave.
These motherfuckers
They
have
have
a
an
rice cooker.
induction pan. That's it. The film, I should also point out, it did lose Best Song, this film.
Yes.
2 in 1996.
Evita.
Good.
You Must
Okay.
Love Me.
That song
Was that
bad.
Evita's only win?
It was Evita's only nom and win, maybe. That movie was also kind of roundly, seen as a vanity project at the time. No, I'm wrong. It got some tech noms.
There's an
Yeah,
SNL sketch that is the 3 actresses angry that they got snubbed for the Oscar.
sure.
And it's
Madonna.
Sherry O'Terry playing Debbie Reynolds.
For Mother?
Yes.
Okay.
From
I'm
this year?
Guessing Molly Shannon played Madonna, and I'm trying to remember who the third person would have been. But it was like 3 big actresses who all didn't get the nom after campaigning really hard.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Sherry O'Terry as Debbie Reynolds is like,
It was
I gotta see
money in the
I gotta see it.
bank.
Wow.
Yeah,
You can find it's a Nightline sketch. You got
Uh-huh.
Terrell Hammond doing Koppel.
of course.
It looks like Anna Gasteyer plays Madonna.
Okay.
Sherry O'Terry as Debbie Reynolds, which does look like Money in the Bank.
Uh-huh.
And Molly Shannon is Courtney Love for People versus Larry.
Okay,
Flynt.
Have we discussed this? One of my favorite SNL 90s, well, maybe it was the year 2000. One of my favorite celebrities as another celebrity on SNL was Gwyneth Paltrow as Sharon Stone in a random sketch
Oh,
with
yeah.
Sherry
Oh, yeah.
O'Terry.
Yes.
It's one of her best roles. Gwyneth Paltrow as Sharon Stone.
A
It's
one
so good.
I was obsessed with was knowing that both Drew Barrymore and Tom Green had hosted shortly before this.
Mhm.
Do you remember the thing where Drew Barrymore and Tom Green's house caught on fire?
Yes, and they say the dogs were saved or
Yes.
whatever.
And I knew they did a sketch parodying it on SNL, and I was like, who the fuck
I don't
would have
remember that.
played the two of them?
Great question.
And the answer was Jimmy Fallon is Tom Green,
Perfect.
Sure.
and Katie Holmes
Weird.
is Drew Barrymore.
Very
I bet that
weird.
was bad. Was it bad?
It was
Weird.
bad.
Really
Yeah.
weird.
I
Love
don't
Katie
like that.
Holmes. Love her.
But that's celeb on celeb violence.
Although Katie
know I
Holmes
love her.
recently went on Drew Barrymore and had a great time. Apparently. I just Googled their names
Katie Holmes
together.
is having the time of her life right now.
Yeah.
And we are here for it.
Yes.
The box office
Box
game,
office.
Griffin. November 15th, 1996. What is this movie opening against? What is the other new release
Is
that
it
we have
opening
covered?
against Jerry?
It is not. Because I
Okay.
think Jerry Maguire is full on
December.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I do want to point out The English Patient is opening this week on 10 screens.
Wow.
It's buried in the.
Okay, so what's in November 96?
It's a family film.
It's a family film.
Yes. It's opening
I
to
Googled it earlier.
$27
Oh.
million.
Yeah, yesterday.
Is Mars Attacks October? Is it still
It's
kicking
not
around?
Mars Attacks.
No, but I know. I'm just
Mars
saying.
Attacks has not come out.
It hasn't come out? Oh,
No.
it's December 2.
Yeah.
Yes.
Me? I have no freaking idea.
Do you think you know, Bobby?
Oh, well,
He
I
Googled it.
literally I
Oh,
saw it
you
yesterday
filtered
when I was
you.
looking stuff up.
It's
Yeah.
a family
I have no
We
idea.
I can't
covered it on
pretend.
this podcast.
main feed?
Yeah.
And it's not a Zemeckis. It's not a Spielberg.
No, it's not a director we've covered. It was a special episode.
It was a special episode? It's
Yes.
Space Jam?
Space Jam. People could choose between Mirror Has Two Faces and Space
It
Jam.
was a Newman
no,
family
it never
film.
had a chance.
Yeah.
No, it's open. Mirror is opening to 12 at
Uh-huh.
number 3.
Yeah.
Space Jam is
Barbara's
opening to 20,
best
28,
opening
basically.
That's
too.
wild.
Yeah.
And she didn't even win the week. Like,
No.
She didn't even beat the second week of
Second.
a star-driven thriller, which is at number 2.
Oh.
Space Jam's number 1.
Sure.
New this week. Number
96,
2.
Star Driven Thrill. The Jackal?
No, great guess.
Thank you.
Better than that,
Better than that. Okay.
I would say.
The Jackal's one of my plugins for
Better
like
than
this
that, but
type
a
of
more
movie.
canceled
If I have to
star.
guess. In the
a
top.
more canceled
More
star.
canceled.
Not
Is it
that
The
Bruce
Negotiator?
Willis has been canceled at all. Not The Negotiator. Less
More or less
canceled,
less canceled.
maybe.
Fuck. Okay.
More or less canceled.
Still welcome in Hollywood, but kind of in a weird
Is
way.
it a Mel?
Mel Gibson?
It's a Mel.
Who, right, he's less canceled than Kevin
Yes.
Spacey.
100%.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Like he's getting Oscar nominations.
It's not Ransom, is it?
It's Ransom.
Ransom?
Oh, Ransom.
Dare I say it? Ransom was a big tittied hit.
Ransom's good.
I like
Ransom
too.
was.
I did get my first text this week. Someone saying, you have to stop Griffin saying big titty
tittied
hit.
yeah.
Ben is now nodding solemnly.
Yeah, I
He
agree
doesn't
with
have a mic
that.
this week.
I point them towards Network.
Yeah, that's
From
your
the
new
golden
defense that
pen
Ned
of Patty
Beatty said it.
Chayefsky. No, Robert Duvall says
Wait,
it.
you didn't
Oh, sorry.
invent big titty hit?
No. He says, we got a big, fat Big titty hit.
All right. Well, then I guess you can say it.
I can.
All right.
Take it up with Patty.
2 more weeks. Number 4 at the box office, a great film, grown-up thriller.
You love it.
I love this
Is
movie.
it generally considered a great film?
I
or
think it's
do you
well
love it?
regarded
Okay.
now. At the
Okay.
time, it got okay.
Was it sort of a TNT grower?
Yeah, it's female. It's a female movie. It's
Okay.
4 women
It's for women.
in a thriller, so it's an unusual thing. There's
We're
not
talking
a lot
like
of those
one big
kinds of
female star?
movies. No, they're like 4.
Oh, you're saying 4. I thought you were saying it's intended for women.
No, it's intended for women with 4 women
4 women in a
on
thriller.
the poster.
4
Yes.
women in a thriller.
You don't see a lot of those.
Sex and the
No,
City
and it's
2.
not like a horror movie. It's very much a thriller.
Yeah, it's like a.
That's a
Oh,
horror
no?
movie. That's
Okay.
a horror movie.
Yeah, that movie is a nightmarish, Lovecraftian
It's
horror film.
scary.
Yeah.
It is.
Nightmare on Elm Street 7.
When she
Sex
runs
and the
into
City
Aiden.
2.
She goes to Dubai.
Aiden
It's so
has kids.
scary.
Lawrence of my labia.
Yes,
of course.
exactly.
David.
That's what she says.
No, I know.
Mhm.
4 women in a so like 4 women above.
Now you sound like a Hollywood executive wanting to reject
So
this
4
movie.
women.
You're saying there's 4 women
Can we cut that in
above
half?
the title? Yes. It's a great film. It's from a director, I think.
Oh, is it Set It Off?
F. Gary Gray set it
A
off.
movie you love.
Incredible movie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, phenomenal film.
An incredible movie.
And F. Gary Gray's 90s, including The Negotiator,
Yeah.
are quite strong, and he's sort of become a bit of a boring
We have
director,
talked about
but-
F. Gary Gray was very much a guy on our long list of like, he'd be fun to cover sometime, and he has talked us out of it with his
Really?
last 5 or 6 years of choices.
I read Jada Pinkett Smith's memoir,
Uh-huh.
and I was so bummed. Like she doesn't talk about any F. Gary Gray movies. Like she talks about. She doesn't talk about Set It Off. She doesn't talk about.
Does she talk about Collateral?
She doesn't talk about Collateral. She doesn't talk about what else? Girls Trip.
Does she talk Matrix?
She's obsessed with being in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Yes. She talks about the Matrix
She has
a lot.
the vibe of being like,
Because she-
the Matrix is the
Because
best,
she
yes.
auditioned for the Carrie Ann Moss role, didn't get
Right.
it, was bummed about it, but then they came to her for the sequels,
Yeah.
and she was absolutely thrilled.
She loves Niobe.
And she was
for
sad
her.
that Will didn't want to be Neo.
Man, imagine if they were in it together.
She
And I
was
was like,
sad Will
but
didn't wanna
like
be
being
Neo.
in the cast of Set It Off and not having a thing to say about it
That
is
is weird.
so weird.
That is weird.
It's weird.
Imagine if Matrix Resurrections was coming out during the collapse of their marriage.
That would be great. That'd be good. What do you mean? Their marriage collapsed in like the fucking Eisenhower
7 years-
administration.
7
That's the
years
whole
ago.
thing, yeah.
See, their marriage
years
collapsed
ago.
before they ever met.
Yeah, exactly.
Collapsed a
They
long
were
time
mirror
ago.
having 2 faces. They were like, all right, so we hate each other, but
Yeah.
let's get married.
Oh,
But
God.
I think they probably came up with as
Yes.
wild
Yes.
of a set of
They
rules
did
as
mirror has-
Jeff
they
Bridges.
did
That's
and
mirror
have two
Barbra
faces.
Streisand.
Maybe they should
Yeah.
remake Mirror Has Two Faces.
The 2 of them.
Yeah.
Number 5 at the box office, one of my favorite movies of all time.
One of your favorite movies of all time.
Whew.
In what
How
genre?
to describe?
In what?
Are you
Oh,
getting
wow.
misty-eyed?
Teen romance?
It's not Clueless.
No.
It's not Clueless.
Not very dramatic film.
Oh, it's very dramatic.
Yes.
It's not William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet.
It is.
It is.
Baz
Oh.
Luhrmann's William
Fifth
Shakespeare's
place?
Romeo
How many
plus
weeks?
Juliet. It's been out for 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. I'm like, wow.
It's doing a good job. I've just one of maybe the top 10 most rewatched movies for David Sims.
Me too.
Wow.
Me too.
It's
If
just a
I count
huge
my
movie
teenage
for me.
years, 100%.
Cute.
Definitely up there.
You've also got Sleepers.
Mm-hmm.
No comment.
Never
First
seen
Wives
Sleepers.
Club.
Oh,
Oh.
my
Terrible
God.
competition for Mirror because that's
Yeah.
way more fun.
And I'm also just
How
checking
much
my
money did
notes
First
here.
Wives Club make? It was a hit, right?
It was.
It made
in fact, it looks like a big
$105
titty
million.
Now that's
the century
that is
mark.
that is like
That's
one
so
of the most
incredible.
perfect movies ever made. I think I would.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think I'm being
That
just
was-
like
It
lunatic.
is the opposite of this movie. It's so easy to watch.
Yes.
It's like
the fact you could see Romeo and
It's a-
Juliet and then
it's a
First
movie
Wives
you can
Club
watch
the same
casually
weekend.
and enjoy. It's a
exactly.
movie you can watch hyper actively and enjoy
Yes.
the minutia of that movie. And it's 89 minutes long.
I was and most importantly,
It's a movie that like could play on a plane
is
or
not.
could have like an Alamo Draft House like watch along
Yes.
party
It's very-
screening with
Yes.
people
Mhm.
yelling shit.
So number 8 is
Number 8.
High School High, which we were just talking about.
Very sensitive film.
John Lovitz goes to
Sure.
high school and he has an afro on the poster.
Mhm.
Number 9, Ghost and the Darkness, underrated 90s like
A Val.
Yeah, fun.
Every middle school class, every boy in my class in middle school was obsessed with Ghost in the Darkness.
Really?
Oh my God. And multiple times I went over to the houses of like other boys in my class and they would want to watch it and I'd be like, I'm not allowed. And so I never saw it.
Were you actually not allowed, or you just
I
saying
was
that?
not. It's rated R.
Oh.
And it's like extremely violent.
So you couldn't see movies for moms
And they'd
or
say,
anything
just-
rated R. What
just
the
watch
heck
it.
were you watching?
Just watch it. And I'd be like, I'm not allowed. I can't watch Ghost in the Darkness with
Okay,
you.
but going to other people's houses and watching movies that you weren't allowed to watch is literally your entire. That's my
No,
whole life.
I said, Derek, I can't.
That is, and that is exactly the difference between us.
It has ghosts.
That
it has
is
darkness.
That says everything you need to know about how the difference.
We're gonna have to watch The Indian in the Cupboard. I'm sorry.
Well,
We're
that's
not-
a good movie.
There's no
It's a good
choice.
movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on,
God.
Steve Coogan.
Going
Should
to,
I watch
Yeah.
Ghost in the Darkness?
No,
Is it-
Steve
it's bad?
Coogan's in Indian in the Cupboard?
Is he?
Are you conflating it with Night at the Museum where he's a little tiny Roman?
No. Well, he is a little.
He's a little tiny Roman.
Isn't he a cowboy in Indian in the Cover? I'm gonna look this up. No, he's not a cowboy. Am I conflating?
Well, there
it?
is a cowboy in
yeah,
There
it's a
is,
small,
but
there's a
it's-
small cowboy. He's
The
in
Cowboy's
Well, they're
played
both in the
by...
Yes,
cupboard.
he's in fucking Indian in the
They're
Cover.
both in the
God, you were
cupboard.
you really got in my head there for a
Because he
second.
does play a little tiny Roman.
But he plays.
So
a
he's
little
played two tiny guys.
He plays a little tiny guy in this one too. He
Two tiny
plays.
guys.
That's so cute.
Oh, that's
I think
so
he
nice.
plays like a British war guy. Like he's like a Tommy.
In the
like,
museum?
We're like one film away from me being able to curate my Metrograph series, Pocket Size Coogan. That is the 3 Night at the Museums, Indian at the Cupboard, and I just need one
He
more.
must have been small in something else. Is he small in Philomena? Like, does she carry him around in a little bag?
Yeah.
Pocket Coogan.
Number 10, the box office feel good hit of the year, Michael Collins.
Yeah.
So that's, but yes, as you say, Lindsay,
particular set of protests.
you could see Space Jam. That movie's obviously 37 minutes long. Get out
Incredible.
of there.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Bobby.
double-
Thank you,
you
Bobby.
could-
I
you
needed
could do
someone to like
A
that.
double feature. You could do Mirror Has Two Faces, Space
I didn't
Jam.
hear it. I
Yeah.
need to. I'm gonna listen
Say
back
it
to this
again.
episode.
Just say it again.
I got a very particular set of protests.
Yes. Very good. Very good.
Mirror has two faces.
protests that make me a nightmare for local politicians.
Wow. Movies used to be so good.
Yeah.
Now,
That is what I
now I'm like,
that is
"Did
what
see
I
Wonka?
thought.
Everyone's saying it's good.
every time I watch a movie from 1996 or 1997,
Yeah.
I think movies used to be so good,
I
but I think
know.
it's what Griffith was saying earlier. They used to look so good.
They used to look
They
really
used to be meticulous.
Yeah.
They just
Yes.
looked fucking great. And like this chapter with her complaining about the focus puller,
Yeah.
she's like, the fucking focus puller on
I
Mirror Has Two
know.
Faces
Wow.
wasn't doing it right. It's like
cares.
people used to care
People used to care.
about the focus
People
puller.
used to care.
Ugh.
So, but rank Barbara's movies, Griff. There's 3 of them.
Yentl's the best, right? And then I guess I have to
tough.
put Prince of Tides ahead of this.
But what do you want? What does your
I
heart
like
do?
Prince of Tides more than you, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very pro Prince of Tides.
But I also like Star is Born.
Well, are we ranking?
wait, I guess
Wait,
we
you're
can-
ranking her
the directors.
directing?
Yeah, but we did an episode on Star is Born because she basically ghost directed it.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But I would put Star is Born last.
Yeah, I think
Without a
that's the ranking.
Until Prince of Tides, Star is Born. I'm sorry, Mirror Has Two Faces.
Yeah.
Star is Born.
Yentl is the best.
Yentl's her one.
Yentl is
Yentl's
is her
the
one
best.
unqualified triumph.
Yes.
She's really. That's
I
a
think
really good
Prince
movie.
of Tides is a qualified triumph.
Yeah, but it's also like it's just she had, for not having made many films, her directing career is important in a lot of ways. You know, like it is not accidental or coincidental that the night that Catherine Bigelow was very clearly going to win the Oscar for Hurt Locker, Barbara is the person they had give it to her.
Right.
And I think she opens the envelope and says it's about time,
Yes.
right?
Yes, she
That's
does.
the
Yes.
moment.
Yeah.
It was like she was seen as this
she
figure.
knew what to do. You know,
Yes.
she's a performer.
Yes.
Consummate.
And people went out of their way to ridicule her,
Yes.
even when she accomplished something great.
Yes.
And also, you don't need to direct that many movies to be like a director. Like she
No.
just to me embodies like a director who gives a
She is
real
an
shit. And we talked
artist.
about that it takes fucking forever for her to choose something, for her to do it, for her to get it together. Like,
But you also think about in the same period of time that she's making movies, Beatty, Eastwood, Costner, Gibson,
right.
all win Best Directors and all have similar things where it's like, oh, these guys, they're very particular and the movie's gone over budget and over schedule and it comes out and they're like, we were all wrong.
Yeah.
Here's everything in the world. We take you seriously.
Well,
you
Clint
know?
Eastwood would be like, it took you how long to make The Mirror
Well,
Has
Clint,
Two
I guess,
Faces?
is the opposite.
He's like, I would have done this in a weekend.
I
Clint
know.
would have
would've
done
made
one
this
mirror.
movie,
It's
right.
true.
One mirror, one face.
He would have made 10 mirrors with 10
The mirror
faces.
cannot
This-
have two faces. No.
Can't wait for Gypsy. 2050.
I
We're
can't
gonna
wait.
get it.
That would be great.
She's gonna do it.
Like she fucking Clint Eastwood's making a movie right as we speak.
She can do it.
So she can
What's
do
it
it.
She
about?
finished her 10-year
What's
book.
the new
It's called
Clint
Juror
Eastwood?
Number 2. It's about a guy gets picked for a jury for a crime he may have committed.
He's realizing.
Oh, that's
Oh,
cool.
it sounds good.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's
Fucking-
literally some script that just probably fell on his
Hey,
doormat.
that's
and he's
so
like,
cool.
I like it.
Nick Holt.
Fell on his doormat in 1986, and he just like he shook
How
off
was
the
this
dust.
juror
Who's the
movie?
juror? Do we know? Did they
Nicholas
cast
Nick
Holt.
Holt.
Oh,
Tony
love that
Collette's
kid
in
in
it.
Renfield.
Who else is in it? It's got good people.
She the judge?
is the last jury movie the Runaway jury?
Runaway
Have we
Jury.
had a good jury movie since then?
That's a good question. Certainly, jury in the title.
Nicholas
Jury
Holt.
Duty, the TV show, has been
Jury
it was
Duty, the
great.
TV show.
Right.
Okay.
Tony Collette.
I think that counts.
Your favorite Zoe Deutsch from the
Mhm.
Christmas
God.
movie.
My favorite.
Wait, they
yes.
ruined it.
My
Kiefer
favorite.
Sutherland, who is having a little bit of a comeback.
Wait,
He's
are they
very
in?
good
They're
in-
in juror number
He is
2.
really good.
Cam Unicorn.
They're in juror number 2.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Leslie Bibb
Zoe Deutsch is going to be
Popular.
great
Oh
in that.
my god!
and Gabriel Basso.
Shooting right now.
JD
Yeah.
Vance himself.
Oh my God, I can't wait till this
Oh.
comes out.
Yeah, it was a
Gabriel
a
Basso.
strike paused production,
Incredible.
but it's back up and running
Who is
again
he?
now.
Great.
He's on that Netflix show too. That's not. I mean,
What are
I
you
know he
talking
was
about?
JD Vance.
He's the one
Gabriel
that's-
He's on
Basso,
the Night
the
Agent.
night agent.
Thank you.
Not the Night Manager.
No.
It's one of those
No,
Netflix
not the
shows that
day
was
agent.
popular for a week.
Yes. For 1 week, it was the most watched show in
No one
Chile
has ever seen
Yes,
so
yes,
much
It was
television.
watched 6 billion minutes. 6 billion minutes per watch.
per person.
Yes.
Yeah, but I just loved that it was like, I need someone for a night thing. Oh, do you need the manager? No. Hiddleston walks away. No,
Yeah.
I need more of an agent.
I need someone who more negotiates the contract,
Right,
not like
takes
deals with
10%.
my like.
God, I'm high on this juror number 2 thing. He's been so. I haven't been because when I like Clint Eastwood, I like Clint Eastwood. When I don't like Clint Eastwood, I'm like, get me out of here.
Same.
You
And
can't
this
leave.
seems like I'm gonna like this.
Clint on his
I locked the
social.
door
Take me
from
back.
the outside.
Whoever runs Clint's socials, they've been selling autographed photos taken of him on set.
of juror number 2.
Right,
He's got a
directing.
beard.
Currently,
He looks.
He's got a
Yes.
beard. He looks
Crazy.
incredible.
Incredible.
Yes.
I,
Is
can't,
he
I
in it?
actually can't
No,
wait.
he's not.
Why,
in it.
I'm so hyped for this.
Yeah.
I think Cry Macho may end up being his final on-screen film.
Oh.
Yes.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fun.
But he's making another movie.
Juror
Yeah.
number 2.
Yeah.
Unless he accidentally forgets that he's in front of the lens while filming a
And then they only did one take.
correct, the
Right.
one singular take, the one setup.
What if the guy on the juror did it? That's good stuff.
That's
Well,
good.
yeah.
Talk about 1996.
It's
Like, come
fun.
on.
Yeah, it's
Oh
great.
my God.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. We're done with Barbra Streisand.
Uh-huh.
Thank you guys for joining us
Thank
to
you.
Oh,
bid
you're
her
so
goodbye.
welcome.
This was
What are we
amazing.
doing next, Griffin?
John McTiernan.
Wow, he just said
I was gonna say, I
it.
didn't feel like doing any other ramp up. I'm really tired. I need to get some food.
Okay.
John McTiernan, one of the few directors to spend time in both movie jail and federal prison. A man we've talked about covering for a very long time.
From the beginning.
From the beginning.
From the beginning.
Yeah, one of the great,
We're jumping right to him,
fascinating
guys.
career arcs.
Next week, John McTiernan's Nomads, which
Pierce.
sounds crazy. Does
been
have
doing
Pierce.
so
Brosnan.
much
A lot of
Pierce.
A lot of Pierce recently.
Piercing through.
But yeah, we're doing. You guys like McTiernan? You guys love to hunt for Red October?
No.
I probably only seen
Can I say no?
3 of his movies,
No.
maybe.
Die Hard.
No.
Medicine
Yeah.
Man.
Die Hard and Hunt for Red October.
Oh,
haven't
he
seen
did
Medicine Man.
Okay, I like.
No,
I like.
Here's
Die
the thing
Hard.
we found. No one has seen Medicine Man.
Yeah.
Thomas Crown Affair.
Oh, Thomas
With
Crown
Renee
Affair. I've seen
Russo.
that.
Okay, I like
Do
that
you know
too.
Thomas Crown Affair? I want to like it more than I like it.
Wow.
It's
Okay.
got the look of a movie I would like.
I would
Yes.
say I would.
It's
He's
sort of
still
it's sort of
like
too
that.
stupid. It's a little too stupid.
I just
Wow.
can't. We're going to talk about Dennis Leary in that movie so much.
Well, everyone
anyway,
who dropped
what a
out for
fun
the Barbra
miniseries.
series, come on back.
What was
for
his last movie?
Die Hard.
Basic.
Yeah, exactly.
It was what?
Basic.
Oh,
Basic.
Basic. Okay,
Yeah,
never
and
saw
then he
Basic.
went to federal prison,
For what?
The
Tax.
Slammer.
lying
Yes.
under
fraud.
oath.
About
Yeah, lying
what?
to the government.
Anthony Pellicano,
About about the dirty deeds of Anthony
no.
Pellicano.
Oh,
notorious
okay.
Hollywood
Oh.
PI,
Fun.
and phone tapper Anthony
Okay.
Pellicano.
It's exciting. Movie about that.
So that's what we got coming up, and we're done. Griffin, take us out, right? I don't know. You're hungry. Did
I'm
you not
so
have
hungry.
lunch?
No.
Ah, god damn it.
It's
You gotta
snacks.
eat.
Well, I know. Here, tell me about it.
Should have a drawer filled with snowballs over there. Like,
Oh,
we
we
should.
never mentioned that she eats snowballs out of a drawer.
I think we.
Yeah.
I think we said
It's
it.
because
Okay.
she's
All right.
gross. Oh,
Yeah,
she's
I guess
hideous.
so.
Yeah,
Oh my
she's
God.
fucking disgusting.
Well, and that the moment that Jeff Bridges is most disgusted with her is when he finds out that she's eating carrots.
Right. There's a
She sniff-
snowball in the
she
dresser
sniffs
between
the
them.
carrots and goes, mmm.
They don't smell like anything.
Bobby, Lindsay, everyone should listen to Who Weekly.
Yeah, what's coming on? What's happening with Who Weekly in early 2024, if anything?
Oh, we're gonna
I don't know.
do our yearly award show
Sure.
at the end of
The
the month.
Whomies are coming up. Huge deal for
When
the
is this?
community.
This is in a few weeks.
This
This
will
is in
be
like
beginning of
Feb.
Feb.
Yeah,
Feb
so it's a
4.
couple
so-
months.
Go
My
back
mom's
in time,
birthday.
listen to our end of the year.
February this comes out?
Yeah.
Oh, we could be dead by then.
We could be dead
by
What's
then.
happening in
Wow.
February? What will we be doing in
Oh.
February? You know, what we normally do, 2 episodes a week.
3 episodes a week.
Three.
actually.
Oh my God, 3
You're doing
episodes.
3 episodes?
Well, we
a
do
week?
our Patreon.
Because the Patreon.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, So,
So it's just
But they're
it's
shorter.
It's a revolving door of Who-lebrities, and that's what you'll hear.
yeah, they'll still be moving, and so will we.
Yeah.
So that's it.
We'll
We
hang on the
won't-
beach next year. We hung on the
Of
beach.
course.
this
Yeah,
year,
you came to
yes.
my beach abode.
We
Yes,
wouldn't be
you could.
talking about Barbra Streisand or Jeff Bridges, but we could be talking about Mimi Rogers.
That's true.
Yeah, yes. Yes.
never
who
know
in this
what-
movie
you never
could
know
we
what
be
Mimi's
talking
up to.
about?
Is
Oh,
Brenda Vaccaro a Who?
For sure.
She kind of is, in that
For
you're like, she has
sure.
an Oscar
For
nomination.
sure.
Like,
For
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
She's iconically
You know what
Dorothy
I'll
Spornak's
be doing in
sister-in-law
February
in
2024?
Golden Girls.
Still
That's
fucking
true.
reading the Barbra
Well,
Streisand memoir.
That's all I'll be doing in March of 25.
Yeah, check in with me and see if I've gotten up to the chapter.
Hopefully,
Mirror
by
Has
the
Two
time
Faces.
juror number 2 comes out, you'll
Yes.
be done, and we can go to
We'll
Regal and see juror
we'll,
number 2.
we'll all go see it together.
Yeah,
I think
perfect.
that's
We'll do it.
decided.
Maybe we need to do an emergency drill
Yeah,
number
maybe we
2
gavel
episode.
it in. We'll see.
I'm
yeah.
there.
The only problem is it probably came out yesterday. That's how fast he works.
It's been released since we started recording
Yes,
this episode.
Joey
It's
Deutsch is
already
doing an
out.
Instagram live right now, getting people to see juror number 2. She's so proud of it.
I'm so happy for her on that one. She's been in a lot of poops recently, so
I'm
good for
excited.
her.
Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you to Marie Barty for associate producing this show. Thank you to Joe Bowen and Pat Reynolds for our artwork, JJ Birch for our research and reading the entire Barbara book in record
He
time.
read that 1,000 pages in real fast.
Yes.
Good job.
Yes.
You're fired. Joking. He's not fired.
He's double fire, which means he's rehired. Thank you to AJ McKeon, Alex Barron for our editing, Leigh Montgomery, The Great American Novel for our theme song. Go to blankcheckpod.com for links to some real nerdy shit, including our Patreon Blank Check special features where we do commentaries on franchises like the Terminator franchise. Once again, an overcorrection for a month of Barbara?
Yep.
I don't know.
Who knows?
Get ready for the Terminator and John McClane on Blank Check feeds.
So we'll see you in 3 years. When's the next?
This winter.
So when's the next girlie?
When's the next
we'll
woman?
see you then.
When's the next woman?
We'll do plenty of girls.
Yes. Women.
Soon we'll have covered every woman who ever directed a
Yeah,
movie in
well,
Hollywood. All
look,
12 of them.
We need to pace them out for
Yeah,
reasons that are culturally depressing and not our fault. That's all I'm going to say.
It's a little bit our fault.
I'll take 10% responsibility. And as always, Barbra Streisand should not. Fuck.
What?
I'm trying to nail a Streisand effect joke, and I can't figure out how to frame it. David just pushed his microphone.
She should
away.
sue us for doing this podcast.
Correct. There we
Okay,
go.
great.
Thank
There
you.
go.
Bye.